Well, some 2-3 years ago, he was the most powerful, one of the most powerful men in the administration of former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Today, he's a wanted man. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has declared former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta wanted over corruption and corruption-related activities linked to the National Cathedral disbursement, the SML deal, and others. At a national address to clarify the raid on Mr. Ofori-Atta's home yesterday, the Special Prosecutor, Kisi Jabem, described Mr. Ofori-Atta, who served as Finance Minister for the most part of the Akufo-Addo administration as the Finance Minister, as a fugitive from justice.
I signed a directive declaring a high-profile person a fugitive from justice. This person is wanted by the OSP to answer charges in respect of several cases, including the following. 1. Contractual arrangements between Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited and the Ghana Revenue Authority for the stated objective of the enhancement of revenue assurance in the downstream petroleum sector, upstream petroleum production, and minerals and metals resources value chain. 2. Termination of a distribution, loss reduction, and associated network improvement project contract between the Electricity Company of Ghana Limited and Beijing Zhaochen Technology BXC. 3. Procurement of contractors and materials and activities and payments in respect of the National Cathedral project. 4. Activities and payments in respect of a contract awarded by the Ministry of Health, initially commenced by the Ministry for Special Development Initiatives to Service Ghana Auto Group Limited for purchases and after-sales service and maintenance of 307 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter 305 CDI ambulances for the National Ambulance Service. And 5. Payments out of and utilization of the tax refund account of Ghana Revenue Authority. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, the fugitive's name is Kenneth Nanaya Ofori-Atta. Mr. Ofori-Atta is 66 years old. He was the Minister of Finance of the Republic between 2017 and 2024. Mr. Ofori-Atta left the jurisdiction on or around 2 January 2025. On 24 January 2025, the OSP communicated to Mr. Ofori-Atta that the OSP considered him a suspect in respect of 4 of the cases described above. Mr. Ofori-Atta was directed to attend in person the OSP on Monday, 10 February 2025 at 10 GMT for interview. By communication dated 31 January 2025, Mr. Ofori-Atta instructed his lawyers to inform the OSP that he was out of the jurisdiction indefinitely on medical grounds, and that the firm will notify the OSP of his arrival in the country in aid of rescheduling his personal attendance at the OSP. Further, the firm offered its willingness to provide the OSP with any information the OSP may require to aid in the investigation until his arrival in the country. Then on 5 February 2025, the OSP responded to Mr. Ofori-Atta, copied to his lawyers, that the OSP did not need or require notification from his lawyers of his arrival in the jurisdiction. The OSP acknowledged Mr. Ofori-Atta's lawyers' gracious offer to provide the OSP with information in aid of the investigation. However, and this is important, the OSP insisted that Mr. Ofori-Atta's personal attendance at the OSP was required. After all, the lawyers are not under investigation. I don't need lawyers to answer questions on your behalf when you are being investigated. The OSP declined Mr. Ofori-Atta's request to be away from the jurisdiction indefinitely on medical grounds on his say-so. Consequently, the OSP directed Mr. Ofori-Atta to indicate by close of business on Monday, 10 February 2025, a reasonable date of his return to the jurisdiction and attendance at the OSP. The OSP warned Mr. Ofori-Atta that if he failed so to do, the OSP would take all necessary legal steps to secure his return to the jurisdiction and attendance at the OSP at our own choosing.
Well, the Office of the Special Prosecutor acknowledged being informed about Mr. Ofori-Atta's health condition. So why does he still insist on bringing him back to Ghana? Listen to his response when the question was put to him at the news conference.
We are not without the milk of human kindness to appreciate and reckon a person's medical condition. But when you conduct yourself in a certain way to suggest that all you are doing is just a ruse and that you have no intention of returning to the jurisdiction, that is the conclusion we have come to. You see, as I said, the first communication to us was clear, that he was away indefinitely from the jurisdiction on medical grounds. Then we pushed further. You cannot tell us that you've gone out of the jurisdiction on medical grounds on your say-so. If you're a serious law enforcement agency, would you just take a person's declaration that, oh, I am so much an invalid that I'm unable to come? You would demand, Elton, you would demand to know more, right? And that is exactly what we did. So we pushed. The response that came was unconvincing. That he may, at some future time, undergo possible surgical procedure. And I said something which is very crucial. There's intelligence available to us, which we do not want to reveal now because it may compromise the investigation. That tells us that, and that's what I stated, that it is just a ruse, that he can travel to the jurisdiction. It's not as if he comes to the jurisdiction, we'll promptly lock him up and throw the key away. It is a process we go through. This is a democratic institution with very well prescribed constitutional and statutory legal processes. So what do you fear coming in to answer questions? You can reschedule your appointments in such a way that you can come in and go. We will not say you should stay and die at all costs. What kind of persons will we be?
So, I mean, to put this in proper context, according to the OSP, the former finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, is required or is being urged to respond to key issues under investigation, 5 of them: the SML GRA contract, the ECG and Beijing Technology Limited contract termination. There's also the National Cathedral expenditure. There's also procurement of ambulance and a contract awarded to Service Ghana Auto Group Limited for the purchase, after-sales service, and maintenance of 307 Mercedes-Benz ambulance for the National Ambulance Service. There's also the GRA tax refund account payment. So these are the matters. The OSP will not disclose in detail the reason Ken Ofori-Atta has become a person of interest, because they will not go into the details of the case so as not to compromise the integrity of it. So this is what we gleaned from the OSP at that news conference today. Now, the background to this, according to the OSP, Mr. Christian Jaben, revolves around correspondence between the two entities. That's Ken Ofori-Atta, the OSP, and then the lawyers of Ken Ofori-Atta. There is a letter in circulation that establishes the connection that went on and the correspondence that eventually led to today's news conference declaring him wanted. Let me bring that to you so that you better appreciate the background to all of this. So this is part of a letter that the OSP wrote to Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, commenced investigations into suspected corruption and corruption-related offences in respect of the following. So the 5 things that I went through are SML contract with the Ghana Revenue Authority for the petroleum, downstream, upstream production and minerals and metal resources value chain. There's also the issue of Electricity Company of Ghana and some termination that went on between it and Beijing Technologies. There's also ambulance service and a few other things that the OSP requested Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta to assist in investigations into this matter. Now, from what we've been told, lawyers acting on behalf of the former finance minister wrote to the OSP explaining the absence of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta to the effect that he is currently out of the country receiving medical treatment, and for that reason, as we speak, he's on indefinite medical leave, and for that reason, they, as lawyers for Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, are in a position to respond to any question that the OSP wants to ask Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta. Now, the OSP also sent a letter to the office of the former finance minister, and that is what we brought to you earlier. Now, after the news conference today, lawyers acting on behalf of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta responded through this press release. So part of it reads, further to our letter dated 31st January 2025, and in response to your dated February 5, 2025, we write as solicitors for Ken Ofori-Atta in respect of the above subject, which was addressed to our clients and in which we were copied. And they say they attach documents indicating that their client, in this case, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, is receiving at Mayo Clinic in the USA, detailing his appointment and timeline suggestive of post-match adults when our client may be able to be in Ghana. And they say that we shall be grateful if any attendance in person required by your August office is fixed, taking into account the medical report from his doctors, counting on the usual cooperation. So this is what lawyers wrote to Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta. Lawyers for Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta wrote in response to the Office of the Special Prosecutor's request for Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta to avail himself for some kind of a response. Now, we'll stay on this matter briefly because after the news conference, the lawyers has formally responded to Mr. Kisei Jabrin's declaration of Mr. Ofori-Atta as a wanted man. This matter is taking a life of its own. Now, in Parliament today, the minorities attempt to raise this issue was met with some kind of protest by members on the other side. Let me bring in Richard Ahiagba, who is the Director of Communication for the NPP. Mr. Ahiagba, good afternoon and welcome to the Pulse here on Joy News. Yes, so you are joining us.
Good afternoon.
Yes, great to have you here. So first, let me get your reaction to what is happening right now. Some have described it as an embarrassment to somebody who served in a position as Minister of State during the Akufo-Addo administration and the way he's been treated. But some say that this is a law at work. What's your reaction to what the OSP did this afternoon?
Well, thank you very much. I think that I join many who disagrees with the approach of the special prosecutor. The former minister is not one who is a flight risk or anyone who cannot avail himself or will not avail himself for any possible support that he probably can give to the investigation of the matters raised. And I think that the supposition of the special prosecutor is to the effect that he is guilty already. And because he's not convicted of any crime, he's a suspect. And if an individual is a suspect, he can aid in the investigation. And I don't think that Ken Ofori-Atta would want to evade any such responsibility. But the point is that we all know Ken has had some health challenges. You recall during COVID, the kinds of things he went through, but he toughened up and served as the best he can. And so if at this time think the chips are down and he wants to attend to himself medically, I think that we should accord him the space and not engage in this grandstanding that the special prosecutor is doing. We've seen him do some of these things before. In many cases, he would come back and eat humble pie. All these Rambo star stuff he's doing is needless. It is the law. It's a process. You should allow the process to unfold. If for some reason he thinks that Ken Ofori-Atta is no longer a suspect and therefore he by himself had convicted him, he doesn't have that power unilaterally to convict him. And he may if he wants to, if he's convinced, then he should go to court, secure a conviction. Then on the back of that, he can actually then have him be declared as a fugitive. But what he said there is not proper. Even my basic understanding of the law doesn't give him that basis to unilaterally declare him a fugitive when he had not secured any conviction from any court. So I think that a special prosecutor should slow down. There's plenty of time to pursue justice and to ensure that anybody, regardless of who may have done anything untoward against the people of Ghana, against the public purse, to be pursued according to law. But in that pursuit, the due process must be allowed and people's rights must be respected. What he's doing, I think, is crossing the line and it's needless. And I can tell you that the way he's rushing, he probably would come back eating humble pie again. Let's all work within the law. I don't think that, if you ask me, I will support anybody who abused the public purse to go free. And I know you will not do that. But in the pursuit of that justice for the people of this country, let's recognize that every human being under the law is supposed or is deemed innocent until proven guilty. And what the special prosecutor is doing is prejudicial, is unacceptable, and it's extrajudicial in my view, and it needs to take it slow.
But the special prosecutor has not pronounced guilty on Mr. Ofori-Atta.
Well, if you are declaring somebody a fugitive,
because according to them, they can't find him, and even the response that he got from his lawyers, there is no timeline as to when Mr. Ofori-Atta will be back in the country. The claim is that he's on indefinite medical leave.
And I'm saying that he's a private citizen. He doesn't work for anybody as we talk now. So where I'm sitting now, I can take a medical leave and go for as long as I want to go. He's a private citizen. And so if he's gone somewhere to attain his health, you don't determine when he comes. But to the extent that there is an issue, you want him to assist with investigation. He is not a convicted person. He's just a suspect. And that suspect will take the liberty to assist with the investigation. Now, you cannot compel that person. In the manner he's saying, declaring him a fugitive, I'm saying that if he wanted that, then he needed to take a certain step, which he has not taken, which is to go to court and secure a conviction against the individual to say that the court should pronounce him as guilty, and therefore, in that matter, he must appear. In which case, when he doesn't, then you can say he's a fugitive. But right now, the special prosecutor is jumping ahead of the gun. And I think that's improper. And nobody, doesn't matter whether it's MPP or NDC, once it's a Ghanaian, those rights must be accorded in people. Nobody should summarily declare people guilty when they are not. And that's what I'm saying. It's prejudicial because he's acting as though that the man is guilty. He's a suspect. His letter says he's a suspect and need him to help in an investigation. That investigation may go through and he'll be found not to have done anything wrong. So why is it creating the impression that Ken Ofori-Atta has done something wrong? And therefore, he merits him giving a press conference and making such pronouncements that will prejudice the public view against him, that he's done something wrong. He hasn't done anything wrong. He says he's investigating a matter and he is key in assisting that investigation. You write to the person, he responded. You then choose to interpret what they have written to you to suit you, to say that it's indefinite medical leave, leave travel that he has made. He's not a leave. He's not working for anybody. He's on his own. So he's going to treat himself. He's not on leave with anybody. He doesn't work for the state. So if he is going to seek his own medical assistance somewhere, it doesn't lie with him to tell him what time to come. Unless he goes to seek get a conviction somewhere, and so on the basis of that conviction, then he is compelled. But if he is not available,
so what the OSP again added, what the OSP again added this afternoon was that he has two options: either to make himself available, or he will be forced to come.
What I'm saying that he doesn't have that power under the Acts. Okay, under the OSP Act, he doesn't have that power to compel anybody. He first has to go to court. It's on a court order that he can do that. He doesn't have it. So what is this hurry about? What is this rush about?
Do you have any idea when Mr. Ofori-Atta is back in the country? Will we advise that in view of what has happened?
If you listen to it, did he say he has a conviction that Ken Ofori-Atta has done something wrong, on which basis he's been looked for?
That
if he's not available,
they are still investigating, according to him.
Yeah, so if he's investigating, then Ken Ofori-Atta, based on his request, is a suspect. He's not convicted of anything. And a suspect, you can't treat a suspect like a criminal. You can't treat a suspect like he's committed a crime. No, until your evidence suggests that he has done something untoward and he's pronounced properly so at a court of competent jurisdiction, you cannot treat the man the way the special prosecutor is doing. We've seen him do some of this grandstanding all throughout the period. And I wonder why he keeps doing it. Why is he doing that?
Hold that for me briefly. I'll come back to you. Let me bring in Mr. Ansah-Asare, a former director of the Ghana School of Law. Mr. Ansah-Asare, I've read somewhere that you are questioning the timing of this action taken by the OSP.
I did. I think I'm in entire agreement with the last speaker. Ken Ofori-Atta is not an ordinary citizen. I know that the law is no respecter of persons. But if a person is innocent, under the Constitution, you are presumed innocent until your guilt is proven. That is the law. Now you cannot, as it were, use a mere suspicion to pronounce a person guilty and therefore open the lines, for the global police to, hunt him out and bring him, to justice as a fugitive. You cannot do that. And that's why I said it's a national disgrace that, we should treat our former finance minister the way, that the special prosecutor, has just been saying, to have done.
But Mr. you lawyers say that everybody is equal before the law.
Take for that. The Ken Ofori-Atta, we all know, was mentioned by the former Attorney General as the one who wanted Atto Forsen's conviction, by all means, and therefore this is a tit for tat game.
But the OSP, if you can hold that for me, the OSP is an independent body.
The way we are going about it in this country.
But Mr. Ansah, you raise the issue of tit for tat, and I'm saying that this is an office that is independent of government. Where does the tit for tat come in?
So the former Attorney General was the number one minister. Wasn't he used by the former president? Who says that the current president cannot use the current special prosecutor? After that, it seems to me that the value is the same. I mean, we accuse Nanado of appointing his cronies, his family people, his friends. The president, the people he has appointed, are they Nanado's people? Are they our people? Is it not Mohammed's friends and cronies? Is the value therefore not the same? So if Nanado tried to hound out Atuisian, why shouldn't Muhammad do the same? Two wrongs don't make a right. We should stop this kind of politicking and rabble-rasta gimmicks in our body politic. It's not going to serve the nation any good. This is ambush conviction. It's unorthodox. I mean, this thing should have been some 80 years ago, not today. This is barbaric.
And what is wrong with
what the special prosecutor has done is uncivilized, and he must be told so in plain language. This is not how the criminal justice system works. You should look at Article 19, the whole of Article 19. You should read it again before he embarked on this fruitless journey that is being used to discover and get convictions by all means against people. Ken Ofori-Atta is a Ghanaian, he's not a fugitive. No court has pronounced him fugitive of justice. That, he should be hounded out. And if I were, in the shoes of the special prosecutor, I'd be the first person in good conscience to resign. What he has done is reprehensible, and he should be told so. I should believe that at the end of today, the special prosecutor will resign.
No, but Mr. Ansah-Asare, educators,
where was he? When
if you can allow me to come in, Mr. Ansah-Asare, if you can allow me to come in, you are demanding his resignation for what?
Yes,
exactly.
I'm demanding the special prosecutor's resignation. He has failed the nation. He's being used. He is being used.
By who exactly?
I don't think that. I'm a Ghanaian. I know the way we play our politics. I don't want to be involved in this gutter type of politics. Let's call a spade a spade. By himself, the special prosecutor, will not do, what he has done. He's spineless. He is spineless.
And you say he's being used, and I want to find out being used by who? Who is influencing his decision? Tell me,
somebody is using him.
Who exactly is that person?
He can take me anywhere. Somebody is using me. Him. He's being used.
And who
we
is
should stop this kind of politics, please.
And who is influencing the OSP to do these things? Who exactly
is influencing him?
Yeah, you said he's being used. I'm asking who is using him.
Who influences people in this country? Do you know those at the helm of affairs? Are you a foreigner in Ghana?
No, I'm not. But your assumption is that he's being influenced by the government of the day.
Let us discuss it, in the context of what we know. I'm saying that the special prosecutor by himself will not, he's a lawyer, and if you know, and he knows that until a person's guilt is proven, he is innocent, and therefore an innocent person cannot be declared a wanted fugitive who is running away from justice, and therefore must be hounded out and be brought back to Ghana in handcuffs. That is not the way the criminal justice system works in this country. That's not the way it should work.
Can I come in?
The criminal justice system, the power resides in us. And therefore, we also have everything to say about how our justice system is operated. That's the point I'm making.
And please, and Council, if I can come in here, I have some few questions which I'm sure that it can help brighten things up this afternoon.
He has family members, He's a family man.
All right, let me come here, Mr. Ansah-Asare.
So you see where I'm coming from.
And I want to just put in some few questions here, if you can just allow me. So, yeah. You're a lawyer, and of course, lawyers deal with the evidence that can stand the test of time. Now, you've made wild allegations about the fact that he may have been used, or he is being used by people, you cannot name them, to undertake this course. And I'm saying that is a wild allegation you've made, one that lacks the evidence to back it.
Oh, my brother, it's not a wild allegation. We know the faithless people, who do such things. When Nanado was in power, he did exactly the same thing, and we all spoke angrily about it. Now we are back to square one. It's like my sister telling me, that is, where we are reached now. Mahama is, in the second month of his presidency, and the writing on the wall is not, doesn't seem good at all. We shouldn't wait till, Mahama has become a despot before we begin, to shout, from the rooftop. We shouldn't at all.
All right.
The special prosecutor has done something that is reprehensible. It should be roundly condemned. That for treating an innocent, citizen and declaring him a fugitive who is wanted. I mean, how? A former finance minister, is this the way, to operate the criminal justice system?
And you insist
the special prosecutor should resign.
So
for embarrassing the whole nation.
Okay, now on this score, I mean, this is an office that has been set up to more or less fight corruption. The special prosecutor says that I have undertaken these investigations. Person of interest is the former finance minister, who, according to you lawyers, everybody is equal before the law. When the law is being applied, it overlooks whatever title that one may hold. And he says that this person of interest must answer for his role in these matters. Now, the person of interest says that I'm sick, I'm receiving medical attention, I'm on an indefinite medical leave. There's no clarity as to when this person will be back in the jurisdiction to respond to these matters. Then the special prosecutor goes on to say that because we cannot find him, we are declaring him wanted. And you say that he's done something that is untoward.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Ansah. Yes.
I'm saying my short comment is this. The special prosecutor, unless he is able to convince me that he was not in Ghana in 2024, in 2023, or after his appointment, he traveled out of the country. But if he's not able to convince me that he was out of the country, but rather that he was in Ghana, then he shouldn't even open his mouth. The countless allegations of corruption that people made against ministers of the SY government. What did he do? When ministers were hiding dollars in their bedrooms, in water containers, wherever. What did he do?
That matter was investigated, and they concluded on that matter.
Against allegations of graft and corruption, what did he do? Has he just rediscovered his prosecutorial powers, or has he just come from foreign countries with new ideas? Certainly not. He has all along been, and I'm telling you, as soon as he finishes the assignment given him, he will be dismissed.
And you insist that he must resign because as a result of him doing his work.
Pardon?
And you are saying that he should resign for doing his work?
He's not doing what he's doing is not in the public interest. It's not in the national interest. It is not in the national interest to declare an innocent person a fugitive. It's contrary to public policy. The public policy is that everyone must be presumed to be innocent until that person's guilt is established. What he has done is, contra bonus mores, as lawyers would put it.
All right. Mr. Ansah-Asare,
this is a self-serving enterprise.
All right. If you can kindly hold on for me, Richard Ahiab also hold on for me, and then Mr. Martin Pebo, if you can also kindly hold on for me. Let me take our viewers to Parliament, because this matter is taking a new life in Parliament. Let's listen in what the minority is saying on first the rate, and of course the declaration by the OSP on Ken Ofori-Atta as a wanted man.
Under the law. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I reinstate my call for accountability and transparency. The actions taken by the OSP in this matter are deeply troubling. And the actions also taken by governments are deeply troubling. They must be addressed with the utmost... Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I reinstate my call for accountability and transparency. The action taken by governments are deeply troubling, and they must be addressed with utmost agency. We owe it to our citizens and to the legacy of our nation's commitment to justice to ensure that such abuses of power are not repeated. Mr. Speaker, I urge my fellow members of Parliament to join me in condemning the actions of government and the state authorities, and no current or formal appointee of any government should go through such an ordeal. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, this is a statement on our own member who used to be a former Minister of State. So I think I am going to be guided by 93(5) that nobody is going to be allowed to speak more than 5 minutes, and the comment should not generate debate. Honourable members, I'm going by our own standing orders. I am going by our own standing orders, and I'm going to take 3 from each side. 3 from each side. Then I give the leadership 1, 2, 3 leadership, 3 leadership.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, we have 10 members on this side. We have 10 members on this side ready to comment. We have 10 members on this side ready to comment. 10, yes. No, 10, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, 10 people.
Leader, I can't take 10.
If they don't have anybody who wants to comment, that is up to them. But we have 10 people who want to comment. I caution you, Mr. Speaker. I caution you. And he said that he was ready for it. So 10 people will comment on this side.
You said he was ready.
You said you were ready.
I will vary my orders. I'll give 5 each, including leadership. 5 including leadership. So I'll begin with Honourable John Jinapo. Not more than 5 minutes, please.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, let me start with a Ghana Web report. And it is dated, Mr. Speaker, 2017, Friday, 28th July 2017. AK-47 wielding corps raid John Jinapo's home. Mr. Speaker, 5 police officers believed to be from the National Security on Friday raided the home of former Deputy Power Minister, Mr. John Jinapo, in search of documents related to the controversial $550 Ameri deal. Mr. Speaker, this very very house approved the Ameri deal. Mr. Speaker,
what is it?
Speaker, I thank you. Earlier on, I had tried to catch your attention. I think it's important we set the parameters right. Let it go into the record that nobody's afraid of this subject matter. And the leader says that he's cautioning. Nobody's afraid. Nobody has anything to hide. Now, the point I want to make is that, Speaker, yes, when we are debating, we make reference to other sources of information. Let it be put on record that any matter that anybody wants to reference, it should be tabled. It should be tabled. Speaker, if our colleague has some source of information, let that information be tabled before he can proceed on same subject matter. You can just get up and say that Ghana Web. Table it. Let him table it. No, he should table it. Anybody gets up and say Ghana Web, he should table it. Speaker, I insist. Let him table it. Then he can take his source serious.
Honorable John Jinapo.
Mr. Speaker.
You've already spent 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, that's most unfair. That's most unfair. I mean, you can't do this to me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you are a leader. And you should know that when something is public record, especially in this house, we do not tender any evidence. Professor Mike Okwe, then Speaker, made a ruling on the matter in this chamber. You were seated here. Professor Mike Okwe wrote to the CID in respect of this matter. And so what other evidence do you want me to tender when it's captured in the Hansard? Anything captured in the Hansard, you don't tender any evidence. Mr. Speaker, I am saying that on that fateful day, Mr. Speaker, on that fateful day, when my house was raided by AK-47 wielding national security operatives, when they banged on my door, creating fear and panic, sending my 6-year-old child into a state of hysteria, into a state of fear. We had members here. They never commented on it. And I commend Professor Michael Okwe on that day when he stood up and ruled that what they were doing was wrong. Mr. Speaker, they took my phone, they took my laptops, and took it to the United Kingdom to investigate me. Today, a very simple matter. You are scared of it. Mr. Speaker, let me explain something. The OSP has declared Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta as a fugitive. As a fugitive. Mr. Speaker, in our local language, fugitive, in our local language, it means that wadenwa kamura. Or, to put it simply, wajibam. Or in the Hausa language, otilo. Or to put it in a more simpler way, yagudu. It's as simple as that, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, we should not be afraid of accountability. As public officials, when they took my laptop, it got to a point they couldn't even open the iPhone. I told them I was willing to come and use my fingerprint. It was then and there that they told me that the phones had been taken to the United Kingdom. I had to give them the password. Eventually, the very American that I was accused of, a minister was dismissed because it came here padded by almost $800 million. Mr. Speaker, on this auspicious day, on this day of reckoning, on this day of accountability, the only thing I can say is that we wish the man in white.
5 minutes.
The best of luck.
Is up.
But Mr. Speaker,
5 minutes is up.
The finance minister should come here and settle the scores as far as
5 minutes is up.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Yes. Honorable member for Bimbila, you have 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, we are building a democracy. The honorable member who just spoke said gun-wielding policemen raided his home. That is what a democracy is. Police people. My brother, you don't use soldiers to raid somebody's home in a democracy. Yes.
members, I am not giving the floor to anybody on point of order. Please.
Mr. Speaker.
Please, let's tolerate each other, please.
Mr. Yes. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let them be informed. Let them who stand up be informed that by 4 a.m. on the 7th of this, January, there was no defense minister in Ghana. Let them be informed. Let them be informed. Let them be informed that nobody in Ghana, let them be informed that tell the gentleman here that he's just been nominated Deputy Minister of the Republic of Ghana. You are no more in a position to be shouting. Respect yourself. You are in government today. Mr. Speaker, let them know that by 4 a.m., when soldiers and police entered here to keep order, there was no Minister of Defense in Ghana. Be educated yourselves. Mr. Speaker, I still want to repeat. Let me repeat to my colleague. That in a democracy, you do not use soldiers to raid somebody's home, especially when that person has told you, that I am not in the country and I will report when I get back. Ofori-Atta wrote to the OSP that, look, I am not in the country, I've received the invitation and I will come back and report to you for any investigation. You have no right, Mr. Speaker, you have no right to send soldiers to raid a man's house when he's not there. When he has told you that I will come, I'm out of the country. It is worse than armed robbery. In fact, to the extent that I have seen pictures of Richard Japa, who has just been forgiven of his sins, raiding somebody else's house. What business has that man in the house of a man who is supposed to be traveled outside? This is not the democracy we are building.
Thank you.
It is wrong for John Mahama, who just won an election, to try to use soldiers to intimidate people.
Thank you very much.
We will not agree today.
Thank you
we
very
will not agree tomorrow. We are not cowards.
Thank you.
We will account to anybody who wants us to account.
Thank you very much. Now, yes.
Mr. Speaker, the former defense minister, in his concluding statement, mentioned one Mr. Japa and said that somebody who has just been forgiven of his sins. Mr. Speaker, he has never proven that the guy committed a sin. He has never proven that the man committed a sin. So you cannot say that somebody who has just been forgiven of his sins, nobody forgave him of any sin because nobody proved any sin. So, Mr. Speaker, the man is not here. He should withdraw that part of his statement.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the case against Richard Japa, the appeal, and the current finance minister was withdrawn by the current president. The appeal was withdrawn by the current president. Allow the court to deal with the matter. And let's see whether you have sins or you don't have sins. Allow the court to deal with the matter.
So
Mr. Speaker, allow the court to deal with the matter, and let's see whether there are sins or there are not sins.
So have you?
But if you want me to withdraw the word forgive, I'll withdraw that word. But I say to you that allow the courts to decide whether a man is guilty or not.
Thank you very much. Now, Honourable Member for Bolgatanga, is it Central or Central? Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am very sad that in our country, the biggest perceived enemy of our economy is being defended the way my colleagues are doing. And everybody knows. And everybody knows. No. Everybody knows. Everybody knows.
Honorable Adongo, how did you come by that? That is the biggest.
Mr. Speaker, if that makes him happy, I withdraw.
Please, just withdraw. Honorable members.
Yes, the truth.
Honorable members, please. Honorable members, please, let's be guided by our all standing orders. This comment should not generate any debate. So please, let's make a statement that will invite no other person to come and challenge your statement. Please, let's be straightforward.
Mr. Speaker, you allowed very contentious, debatable issues to be raised here. And you are now asking me to respond to debatable argument without debate? Is that what you are saying? You admitted all that debatable documents that he presented here. But I want to say that if you are a Ghanaian and you respect yourself, Ghana has gone into debt restructuring and embarrassed globally. Who did that? Ken Ofori-Atta did that. The Ghanaians who bought our bonds, went through a DDEP. Who did that? Ken Ofori-Atta. And so, if you get up to defend this person who has robbed us of our peace and happiness, and you expect me to debate this in a manner that is not debatable, I beg to differ. But Mr. Speaker, the truth is that the OSP has made it very clear that the state did not send anybody to Ken Ofori-Atta's house, and that was staged by Ken Ofori-Atta's own people.
Hold on. Yes, Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, let the records reflect that this side of the House brought this matter up, questioning the mode of the action taken by state security operatives. Mr. Speaker, the argument being made by my colleague is to the effect that the man has committed some crimes and we are defending. Mr. Speaker, let it be known by him. Let it be known by him that as he is now in this chamber, he's aspiring into public office. He's seriously lobbying to be made a deputy minister. Mr. Speaker, he has not even been recognized. It is some of these unguarded statements. That is why he has not been recognized. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about the mode of the raid, the arrest. We are not saying that if the state has evidence against Ken Ofori-Atta, you shouldn't try him.
Very well.
Mr. Speaker, if indeed there is an issue against him, the state can try him. Then he can have access to his lawyers.
Leader.
But you cannot accuse him that the man is guilty.
Leader, I'll come to you. Because you have your time so that you can address all these things, please.
Mr. Speaker, he has to withdraw that part of the submission.
Leader, which part?
These are my views.
Go on.
Yeah, they are my views. The minority leader doesn't tell me what to say in this house. He doesn't dictate to me what I say in this house. And I'm saying that when, as a government, you decided to violate the Public Financial Management Act with impunity, this day was coming, and it has arrived. The Public Financial Management Act is very clear. The Public Financial Management Act is very clear that you cannot commit this state to a multi-year contract without the Minister for Finance
without the Minister for Finance himself issuing a commencement certificate. And yet, after he issued a commencement certificate, he was still drawing on contingency fund as if he didn't know about the project. And he thought that you could do that as long as you want. But the subject is that the OSP has spelled out the reasons why he's looking for him. And I'm discussing what the OSP is calling him for. That when he decided to engage in multi-year transactions and refused the approval of Parliament, knowing very well the implications in the Public Financial Management Act, he knew that he would answer for it one day. And that you are now asking us to do what? Not to discuss a fugitive. We shouldn't discuss a fugitive. Is that what you're asking? Or to clean him up even though he's a fugitive? So when you came here, you knew that the product you were selling, you could not sell it. And we warned you. We warned you and you did. You can warn me as long as you want. But the important thing is that the OSP has stated.
Thank you.
The OSP has stated that he didn't send anybody.
Thank you, Honorable Adongo.
Why are you running away? Why are you running away?
Honorable Osenyako.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I have come in peace. I have come in peace.
You've come in peace.
Mr. Speaker,
you said you've come in peace.
Yes.
Very well. Let's listen to you.
God willing, Ghana will be 68 years this year. Mr. Speaker, we have seen government change all the time. Mr. Speaker, the wrong yesterday is not right today. If we are building a society, if we are building a country, if we are building a nation, Mr. Speaker, we cannot and we should not allow some of these ills to go on in our society. All of us sitting here, we are politicians. All of us. Tomorrow, it could be you. Today, you think it is Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, so it is okay. I will speak against it if it was meted to you. The fact that similar issue or same thing was done in 2017 doesn't mean that we should repeat same this time. You should listen to me. Mr. Speaker, I am sad. I am sad for Mother Ghana. I am sad for we as a politician because tomorrow it will be your turn. And I cannot sit because I'm in the opposite side, so I'll sit down and watch you be treated this way. Mr. Speaker, if you want to build a nation, if you want to build a democracy, let us use the laid down procedures. I am not speaking to shield anybody. The laws are clear that if anybody is found guilty of committing any crime, there are laid down procedures to deal with such matters. You don't use a Rambo style action to go to somebody's house. I have just a caution. I have a message for the president. President Mahama should listen to me. Mr. President, Ghanaians voted for you massively so that you come and unite this country.
Thank you.
They did not vote for you to come and divide this country.
Thank you.
If he want to leave a legacy, long after he has leave his office, then I am begging him that he should use the laid-down procedure to address some of these matters.
Right, so we are still live in Parliament. We will take you back when the feed is stable. But for now, that's the situation on the floor of Parliament. Members clearly divided on the raid that took place at Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta's house yesterday, and the decision taken by the Office of the Special Prosecutor declaring him wanted in connection with 6 ongoing investigations. And then, of course, the other matters that we have. Now, Martin Pebo is a private legal practitioner, which Nahiagba is Director of Communications with the governing, with the opposition NPP. Let me pick, Mr. Martin Pebo, good to have you here on the pause. First, your reaction to what was said by the OSP today.
My first reaction, the first statement I wish to make is that I'm not impressed at all that the OSP didn't put in place measures to prevent Mr. Ofori-Atta from traveling, right? Because we all know that Ofori-Atta left office earlier in the year in 2024, right? And this SML matter had been on for months. Yeah, I remember even for me, I acted as lawyer, and I'm still lawyer for the Media Foundation for West Africa and others. We sued in August in respect of that matter. So what I'm looking at is that a matter that for months was in the public domain, even private people, we looked at it and we could sue in August. OSP sat down, so like we say, Kukwasa, the January for Ofori-Atta to leave. But it's one, and especially in light of the fact that the ordinary Ghanaians started clamoring that, hey, be careful, some of these ministers are going to leave. They are going to leave. They are going to bolt. They are going to abscond. So there was a warning. You see, Mr. Brobe, I'm not happy because, you know, not long ago, a similar thing happened in the context of Cecilia Adapa when OSC said it could no longer continue the investigations, all right, because it wasn't finding any evidence. The evidence looked in the direction of money laundering. Kisi Ejabin said he was going to hand over the money that was recovered from Madame Dapa. Can you imagine? Over $500,000, millions of Ghana cedis, etc. That he was going to hand over to Madame Dapa. So we started making noise on radio and TV that Mamiti Wadi Dankwa, then Yoko boss, should take steps to quickly send some of his men to be present at the handing over ceremony. Let me call it ceremony. It doesn't have to be a fanfare. The moment you are handing over, we can also call it a ceremony.
Right.
Mamiti Wadi didn't do so, and the money was given to handed over to Cecilia Adapa.
Because so at that time, the OSP had made it clear that they had no reason or legitimate, in fact, they had no power at that time to hold on to the money because they had come to the end of their investigation and Madame Dapa had no case to answer.
Yes, that's why I said, so that's why OSP said, you know, by law, they are allowed to continue investigating, right? So they said the crime looks more like money laundering. So we're going to hand over the money to Cecilia Adapa. Isi Ejabi made that public. So my point is that, and we started calling on Mami Tiwa to be present, not she herself. No, you know, Yoko has hundreds of policemen. So she should send her policemen to be present when Kissi Agyabin is handing over the money so that they also take it. Because the first basic rule in money laundering is that if you see somebody with money and that money is beyond the income of that person, whether from salary or any other business, then straight, you are in the area of money laundering. Right? And this is a case where, as part of the OSP investigations, Madam Dapa had sought to explain the source of that money on 2 occasions and failed. She said cosmetic business, named 2 cosmetic businesses. Checks by OSP showed that she didn't own those. Then at the time, she said her deceased brother owned the $800,000. When the deceased brother's wife heard it and wanted to take her on, then she changed her script, etc. So that money should have been taken straight away. Yet, my meeting was sat down and allowed the money to be returned. I see that as similar to Kissi Agyabin sitting down for months, over 6 months, and allow Ofori-Atta to leave.
Mr. I'm not holding brief for the OSP, but maybe at the time they were still doing the investigation and there was no probable cause to detain him or to bring him in. Maybe this is the time that they are conclusive that he has questions to answer. The reason they've taken this action, but some have described it as embarrassing, unbecoming of the OSP, and that he's been controlled. In fact, Mr. Ansah-Asare is demanding his resignation for what he described as his misconduct in the handling of this matter. Do you think the OSP has done right as far as the route he's taken is concerned?
Mr. Abrobe, to be clear, I think my argument for saying I'm not impressed with the OSP is apparently different from Mr. Ansah-Asare. So mine, I'm saying they've been slow and they allowed Ofori-Atta to abscond. But Mr. Ansah-Asare, so I didn't get to follow. I just heard the part that they shouldn't allow NDC to use them. Please, what reasons did he advance? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the reasons myself.
But away from that, is the OSP right in declaring Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta a fugitive from justice?
Well, to be honest with you, what we usually do, the practice, okay, if you look at it by analogy, that police also do it, they announce that they are looking for so and so, and it's long entrenched. So I'm being open-minded. I'm looking at the practice right now. You can ask the police hierarchy. They also do it. And in the OSP Act, you see that they also have the powers of police. So if police can publish that we are looking for a Simesi, okay, Anna or Bintin, and the OSP is said to also have police powers in the law, then it stands to reason that they can also do this. You know, some of these things, for now, I've seen other lawyers arguing against it. You know, I'm one person who is taking a lot of these cases to court. So for those who say, no, you can't do such a publication, the courts are there, let them go, let the Supreme Court look at it, and then we'll all be wiser upon the Supreme Court decision. But now, it's something the police have been doing, and the OSP Act saying that OSP has powers of the police, then it stands to reason that OSP can also do so.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matsubo. I will take our viewers back to Parliament shortly, but let me allow Mr. Wishan, he's been on the line for some time. Mr. Hiabaso, is the party MPP taking any position on this matter?
Thank you very much. I think that as a party, we appreciate the accountability burden on all of us, especially on our ministers and people who are served in government. That's who we are. We appreciate that. We won't shy away from it. But what we don't agree with is the route that the special prosecutor is taking, seeking to indict people, seeking to dismiss the character of people, pronounce them guilty when they have not been tried, dealing with suspects as though they are criminals. And I find that to be objectionable, and that's what we're opposed to. And the debate that is ongoing in Parliament that you screen to your viewers, that's what it tells you. I am, for the life of me, wondering how do you declare somebody a fugitive that you are talking to? How do you declare somebody a fugitive whose doctors have issued a note to you or sent you a letter indicating the procedure and his treatment, and told you that the man is with us? Mayo Clinic is not a small clinic. It's one of the internationally reputed clinics in the United States of America. They have issued you a letter indicating the health of the person they are taking care of. And I have told you, if the special prosecutor is in doubt, that Ken Ofori-Atta, during the COVID period, was just by grace that he's still with us. He was very sick, and you saw it. To the extent some of us were saying that he needs to take a break, but he was committed to the national assignment and stayed on and managed his way up until now. Ken, as a person, is an accomplished individual. He has wealth and access in this country, okay, such that he will not run away from this country. He will not run away. So what is this busy for nothing attitude of the special prosecutor? To declare somebody you in your own invitation says is a suspect to aid in an investigation, which investigation we have not concluded. If he had concluded the investigation and something has been found against him, or he's been pronounced as guilty for anything following that trial, then you can say that Ken is running away. He is not being tried. And he is not, the special prosecutor, taking the requisite steps to secure a judgment against him on which back he can say he's running away from any accountability. So all of these things have not been done. And the special prosecutor is just advancing without all these due process and, criminalizing an individual, calling someone a fugitive, when in actual fact, he has no basis to do that. And that's what we are objecting to. We are in full support of any measure to bring people to account, but we say that let's do that according to law. Let's make sure that people's rights, civil rights, human rights, and legal rights under our jurisprudence be respected, that nobody be abused. A due process should not be prosecuted. He was in this country. One, Madam Selinam Tanoko, he was convicted, wasn't she? He was convicted. Where was she? Did anybody do what special prosecutor is doing even before she was convicted? No. We're saying that the special prosecutor should take it slow. I agree with the view that perhaps he is being used, and he's shown the propensity to put the cart before the horse in the manner he's pursued all the investigations that has come before. He is rash. He is not diligent in the manner that he ought to be. And this is one key event such as that, where he is moving too fast and ignoring all the things he has to do legally before he gets to the point where he's pronouncing somebody a fugitive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Richard Ahiagba. Let me take you back to Parliament now, because the leaders are about to conclude on this statement that was read on the floor by the NPP's caucus whip, Habib Idrisu, first raising issues about the raid that took place at Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta's house yesterday and the latest development on this matter by the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
He's an officer, I believe, of national security of the state. So please, let's not sit here and say things that would dent the image of the men and officers of the Ghana Armed Forces in uniform. So let's be careful. Let's be careful when we say that soldiers were sent, because no soldier was sent to the residence of the defense minister. Mr. Speaker, please, let's be cautious.
Honorable Minority Leader, I recognize Honorable Majority Leader on a point of order. Are you also on a point of order against the point of order?
Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect, take it easy. He didn't say he was up on a point of order. Mr. Speaker, he didn't say so. He didn't say so. And please, he made an intervention for the good of us. I am back on the same level, please. Mr. Speaker, I agree with the Honorable Leader of the House that we should tread cautiously. Rightly so. But, Mr. Speaker, we have heard a colleague make a statement for Hansa. that the respected senior member sent soldiers here to kill us. Those were the words. Mr. Speaker, in the same spirit, we need to be careful. Two, I have publicly acknowledged the diplomacy of the majority leader, and I have no reason to doubt him. But I always act in good faith. I shared with him, although private, but I will tender it since it has been raised. Videos of soldiers in uniform raiding the residence of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta. Mr. Speaker, indeed, he is right in saying that the man being spoken about as the one leading the team is now a civilian. That is true. Mr. Richard Jakpa, who works with national security, and indeed the one who led the soldiers, is a state security operative. But Mr. Speaker, the point is very clear. Are you very sure that it's a state security operative? Mr. Speaker, he says so. It's not coming from me. He confirmed. These are the words of the majority leader. It's not mine. This is Japan. That is what, So, Mr. Speaker, yes, he has confirmed. He says he is a state security operative. It's not coming from me. Mr. Speaker, I have shared the videos with him, and I was fair in my dealings with him by saying that this is a matter that I want to raise. So, Mr. Speaker, let us be guided by what he has just told us and allow our colleague to proceed. I have gotten a signal from my respected colleague who has just been nominated as a deputy minister that he wants to withdraw that aspect of the submission. Oh, he says so, please. It's not, Mr. Speaker, I will not impose anything on him. He signaled that in view of the caution from the leader, he wants to withdraw. If he wants to, that is his matter. I am only telling Mr. Speaker, that's the signal he's giving me. Mr. Speaker, let's be fair with each other. This democracy that you are celebrating today.
Honorable Minority Leader,
Mr. Speaker, I'm concluding. Mr. Speaker, once upon a time, we had 169 seats in this House. You have made it, enjoy it, but let us be mindful. Let us be mindful that we are a family. I told us once some weeks ago that let us learn from the Jinapo brothers. I rest my case.
Thank you, Honorable Member, Honorable Sule. I'll give you the floor. Honorable Nyindam, resume your seat. Honorable Sule, you have the floor.
Speaker, I'm grateful for this opportunity to withdraw the words he brought in military to kill his brothers. My understanding of the role of the military is that they are trained to kill. That's where I was coming
Honorable
from.
Suleiman.
So I withdraw.
Honorable Suleiman, are you withdrawing?
So I'm withdrawing.
Are you withdrawing? What are you doing?
Unreservedly. He's my brother, and I will not do anything to hurt him. So I withdraw them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, statement accordingly withdrawn. Order. Honourable member, conclude. You have 2 more minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Chiwete, can we have some order?
Mr. Speaker, see how pleasant it is that as brothers we are able to understand each other. That should be the spirit that we carry on in the administration of government. Mr. Speaker, we all have a right, and Chapter 5 of the Constitution guarantees our right as citizens. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if you look at Article 14 of our Constitution, it is very clear. It is very clear that no person shall be deprived of their liberty except in accordance with the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, the rate and the style, the Rambo style at which they invaded Ken Ofori-Atta's house. This morning, my little daughter came to me, and she was asking me, "Daddy, is Ghana at war?" Then I asked her, "Why? Mommy, why? Why? What is happening?" Then she was like, "Daddy, get on social media."
Honorable member,
look at how military
I am not supposed to be interrupting you. You quoted a constitutional provision that we need to act in accordance with the law. Are we going to be able to establish whether they have acted in accordance with law or not? Is this House going to establish whether they have acted in accordance with law or not, having regard to the fact that justice emanates from the people of Ghana and it is exercised on their behalf by the judiciary?
Mr. Speaker, it is very clear. It is very clear that from all the statements we have read from the OSP, there's no warrant. People invaded the house of Ken Ofori-Atta. Today, even the OSP that we all thought that led that attack is even running away from the fact that he led those attacks to Ken Ofori-Atta's house. Mr. Speaker, today we have a former military person who has been caught on video, clear video, invading the house of Ken Ofori-Atta. Mr. Speaker, that should not happen. I'm saying that.
Honorable member, did I hear you say he's running away from the facts? He made a categorical statement that the people are imposters.
Who made that statement?
And he didn't authorize them.
Well,
and so, you said he's running away from that particular fact, as if he authorized them and now running away from them.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate your guidance. I appreciate your guidance. But, Mr. Speaker, we are all in the media space. We know what is happening. We know what people are saying. I am saying that this morning, newspapers carried that the OSP, in fact, the Herald newspaper carried that the OSP is the one that undertook this exercise. In his press conference, it denies that fact. It denies that fact. All I'm telling my colleagues is that we live in a country where a president has been given over 56% of votes. He promised, now come and sit down, Kwame, sit down. He promised Ghanaians that he's going to reset the entire system. But, Mr. Speaker, today what we see in the administration of the NDC, it's more like a coup d'etat had happened in Ghana.
Honourable member, conclude.
Being raided and all of that. Mr.
Honourable member, conclude.
Letters are being issued sacking civil servants in our country. Something we have not seen before. Even directors of companies are being sacked. Mr. Speaker, directors of companies are being sacked.
Honourable member, your time is up.
Mr. Speaker,
I proceed to give the floor to Honourable James Agarga.
Mr. Speaker, in conclusion.
Honourable member, resume your seat, please.
4 minutes. Mr. Speaker,
please resume your seat. Honourable James Agarga, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, the statement made by the deputy minority whip was made in the realm of the purported violation of the rights of the former finance minister. If my understanding of that statement serves me right, Mr. Speaker, then of course we have reason to ask ourselves which of the human rights provisions enshrined in Chapter 5 of the 1992 Constitution has been violated. That is the question. The maker of the statement cited a judicial decision in support of the statement. Now, that particular judicial decision, I didn't hear him well, but he mentioned Director of Prisons. That particular judicial decision relates to fair trial principles. But, Mr. Speaker, in the case of the Minister for Finance, He is not on trial. And so the principles enshrined in Article 19 of the Constitution will not apply to him for now. The closest we can come to, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the human rights provisions in our Constitution would be Article 15 of our Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, I will take you through Article 15. And I expect, with the greatest of respect, the minority leader to respect the fact that I am truly a human rights advocate, and he can bear testament to that fact. So let him not interrupt me when I am advancing my arguments.
Honourable Member, you are not interrupted in any manner. Address the chair.
Article 15 of our Constitution talks about the respect for human dignity. And this is what it says. The dignity of all persons shall be inviolable. 2, no person shall, whether or not he is arrested, restricted, or detained, be subjected to A, torture, or other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. B, any other condition that detracts or is likely to detract from his dignity and worth as a human being. It goes on and on and on, but those are the relevant provisions I want to relate to. Mr. Speaker, the question is, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta has not been arrested. He's not in the custody of the police. So how do we start talking about a violation of his right to human dignity? The steps that have so far been taken by the special prosecutor.
Honorable Stephen Amwa, let's listen to him in silence.
Mr. Speaker, the steps that have so far been taken by the special prosecutor is in accordance with law as prescribed under Article 18 of our Constitution. That same Article 18, Mr. Speaker, talks about the right to property and the fact that it shouldn't be interfered with, your property rights, your home, etc., etc. But Article 18 comes with an exception, where the state security apparatus decides to act in prevention of crime or in detection and punishment for crime, an exception is created under Article 18. So the question we should be asking ourselves is, even granted, assuming without admitting, that security agents stormed the house of Ken Ofori-Atta, we should be asking ourselves, did they obtain a warrant from court? Did they obtain a warrant from court? I think our colleagues on the other side should file an agent question and determine for themselves whether they acted with a warrant or without a warrant before they draw certain conclusions. Now, Mr. Speaker, the special prosecutor has spoken. He says he extended an invitation to Ken Ofori-Atta, and his lawyers offered to present themselves for questioning. And he said, no, lawyers are not the subject of the investigation. So he wants to talk to Ken Ofori-Atta himself. Could this be the reason why agents of our state security apparatus stormed his home? Mr. Speaker, let me remark that when Honorable John Jinapo's home was stormed, there was no prior invitation extended to him by any state security agency mandated to investigate any matter. Likewise, the home of Dominic Ayene, the current Attorney General, was stormed, equally stormed. What was his crime? His crime was that he only wrote a legal opinion. A legal opinion warranted the storming of his home without a prior invitation from the police. These are the facts we should compare and contrast. And so, having said that, I did indicate that I, as a lawyer, a human rights advocate,
conclude,
who was struggling to establish for myself which of the provisions of our Constitution have been violated, I found none. Ken Ofori-Atta can submit himself to the law for purposes of investigation. And when there are violations, I'll be the first to speak for and on his behalf. Not until then. He should be law-abiding, come back home, and engage with the special prosecutor so that the allegations that have been leveled against him can be dealt with. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Your time is up. Honorable Stephen Amwa. Honorable Stephen Amwa, before you start, let me remind the entire House that we are operating within the ambit of Standing Order 93.5. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to make it emphatically clear that Ken Ofori-Atta hasn't run away. Mr. Speaker, I would like to advise this August House that I think our actions and omissions over the years have actually defined us, and we have given the public, the external stakeholders, to always see us in different lenses. And it is time we put an end to what we are doing to each other. Mr. Speaker, some of the descriptions they're giving, some even went to the extent of saying that the economy that he left, in fact, I cannot repeat those evil words they use in-house. Mr. Speaker, 2016, the economic Ken Ofori-Atta inherited was growing at 3.4%. Mr. Speaker, the inflationary rate was 15.4. Mr. Speaker, lending rate was about 40%. But for COVID, by 2019, we were growing 7%. Inflation was 7%. Under Ofori-Atta, we had been able to implement one of the most enviable pro-poor policies on the continent of Africa. How could you describe such a man because of global crisis? Your own former finance minister, do you know the description you are giving to your country? Do you know how you are placing Ghana on the globe because of politics? Do you know what you are doing to your country? Very soon, your ministers will be leaving Ghana for other places, for international assignments. And this is what they will read from your own lips. Mr. Speaker, we shouldn't allow this outmoded, colloquial, primitive politics to continue to destroy our country. Mr. Speaker, we are one people with one destiny as a nation. Mr. Speaker, I am only advising the House.
Honorable Stephen Amwa, did I hear you say primitive politics?
No, I'm talking about Ghana.
Will you consider withdrawing the word primitive politics?
Okay. Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, I have done so. But Mr. Speaker, I think I have to make myself clearer here. I am not even speaking against one side. I am talking about actions and inactions, omissions and behaviors that are dwindling the very reputation of this House. We've been doing this to ourselves for far too long. Now, every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there, even if you are driving Land Cruiser, they think you're a politician, whether NDC, MPP, they don't respect us. And this is why I'm bringing it to our attention, that we allow yesterday's propaganda or actions or omissions to continue to keep on destroying the very image and reputation of this August House. Is that what we want to do? This is the question I'm asking. Mr. Speaker, are we teaching the younger generation what we are doing today? Mr. Speaker, what does the Constitution say? Article 18, Clause 2. With your permission. A. no one shall be subjected to the interference of his private home and properties. Has that happened or not? The very constitution that we ourselves, the very laws that we ourselves make, we are undermining the same laws because of politics. We should not sit here and because of politics forget the fact that the same Ken Ofori-Atta made your family members have free school. Your nephews, your children, your aunties, your friends, your mosque members, your church members. But for Ken Ofori-Atta, they would have been home. Let us stop these things against either NDC or MPP. Let us maintain our reputations as a house. Let us believe in one fact that we are one people with a common destiny as a country. All these things we must stop. That is what I mean. Yesterday's politics we should forget. Because we are destroying each other. And we call ourselves honorable members. We all deserve that. But please, Mr. Speaker, what I'm trying to tell the House is that sometimes, because of politics, we say these things, we think we are joking. But those out there, they believe in what we say and they disrespect all of us. Let us protect each other. Let us keep the dignity of this House intact and portray to the people out there that, yes, we have changed. Mr. Speaker, I am ending by telling each and everyone, especially my brothers and sisters from the other side, to repent. To repent. These behaviors must be stopped. We don't do that to ourselves. Look at Honorable Agoja, very respectable. Our leader, respectable. We are all respectable members. But because of politics, I should call you thief, you are this, you are that. And when you go out there, you want people to respect us. I think this should be the last time for all of us. Let us show love and constructive discussions. Constructive conflict C-type, not A-type.
All member conclude.
Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I would like to re-emphasize the point that Ken Ofori-Atta, until proven guilty by court of competent jurisdiction, cannot be described and defined as somebody who is criminal. Thank you very much.
I proceed to give the floor to Kwame Jijoli Gakpe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta is not above the law. He is not above the law. And then when the special prosecutor, they read the statement today, he's talking about the cathedral. They mentioned cathedral issue. They mentioned SML issues. Those are the issues the special prosecutor is investigating. When they call upon Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta to avail himself to the authorities to do the needful, he sent lawyers. And the lawyers they want to represent him. Where is Ken Ofori-Atta? He's outside this country. We call upon our former finance minister to do the needful and come back to Ghana and do the needful. This is about public money. It's not personal money. He's not above the law. The security agencies went to the house lawfully. What we should be looking at is that we should inquire as a house whether they have search warrant to go to Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta's home. It's not about wearing white dresses. So nobody is above the law. When you hold public office, you need to be what? Accountable. The day of accountability have arrived. We were in this country. John Jinapo's home was raided. Former Attorney General's home was raided by the military people. Members were invaded in this chamber. At that time, we don't have the locus to say and condemn it. Today we have the moral temerity, the audacity to say that it is wrong. You have the moral ground to talk. We didn't know the day of reckoning will come today. Here we are. Now you have karma. This is what we call karma. Karma is real. Those days where even members of parliament are being chased. They can prevented. They can't even do the dutiful duties. Here we are. So all that I want to say is that Ken Ofori-Atta is not above the law. He should submit himself. He should stop running away. He's out of the country. Please, please, please call upon him to come back to the country. He shouldn't run behind excuse of medical condition and he will not come. He is fit for purpose, and then we are waiting cautiously, we are waiting patiently for Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta to arrive in this country to submit himself to the authority for the needful to do. Why? What are you running away from? What are you running away from? Cathedral, 58 million Ghana cedis was sunk. Dollars, $28 million. $58 million. Which can build Kosimiti, can build a lot of road. He can build Kosimiti. Is it not true? OPK, is it not true? He can build hospitals. He can build markets. He can do a lot of roads. The agenda 111 business would have finished.
Honorable conclude.
And what are we talking about?
Honorable Gakwe, conclude.
What the SML? Is it not true? Is it not true? Yes. The biggest hole ever Ghana have actually constructed. So nobody is chasing former minister for him. He is supposed to submit himself to the authority to do the needful. And he is not above the law. Mr. Speaker, on this juncture, he swore an oath to protect the public purse. And now the day of accountability is here. So he should just commit himself. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Now, leadership of the House.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to make my comments on this matter. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, a former Minister of Finance and a former presidential envoy, has contributed to nation building. Mr. Speaker, in 2021, when His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo nominated him for the Finance Ministry portfolio, this House had to wait because he indicated he was unwell and seeking for medical treatment outside. Mr. Speaker, in fact, when he even came, he was the only minister that his vetting took 2 days. And in between, this House indulged him to enable him take some break, to enable him proceed with his vetting. Eventually, he left government as a cabinet minister. And, Mr. Speaker, for the records, on the 2nd of January 2025, he wrote to the then Chief of Staff that he needed to travel to Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, USA, for some medical procedure. Mr. Speaker, after President Mahama had taken office, he again wrote to the current Chief of Staff in a letter dated the 22nd of January 2025, indicating that he would again be absent from Ghana for the same purpose. Mr. Speaker, in fact, in the said letter to the Chief of Staff, he attached a letter from the hospital that he was seeking treatment. Mr. Speaker, Indeed, the OSP wrote to him on the 24th of January. In fact, this is the first letter that he received from the OSP. Mr. Speaker, in the said letter, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta instructed his lawyers to respond to let the OSP know that indeed he was out of the jurisdiction seeking medical treatment. Mr. Speaker, what happened yesterday by state security operatives must be condemned by all of us. Honorable John Jinapor has narrated his own ordeal, but the records of this House will confirm that when that happened, Right Honorable Speaker Okwe condemned that act. If indeed something had happened yesterday, it does not mean that we should continue today. Mr. Speaker, I have heard human rights activists, respected lawyers for that matter, quote Article 18 of the Constitution to say that that is not applicable in this case. Mr. Speaker, I beg to submit that that was a wrong appreciation of the law. Military men led by Mr. Richard Jakpa unlawfully entered the premises of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, searched his rooms.
Honorable Minority Leader, the unlawful entry is by your own determination.
Mr. Speaker, you know that by virtue of where we sit, we are able to do some background check before we come here. I wouldn't want to mention names, but Mr. Speaker, when inquiry was made, Mr. Speaker, when inquiry was made, it was obvious, and I stated for emphasis that those officials from the state did not have any warrant. Mr. Speaker, we should not encourage such an approach. We should not. Our democracy is still young. Today, it is Ken Ofori-Atta. Tomorrow, it will be another person. Some of our colleagues should not forget that only yesterday, it took the intervention of certain prominent members of our side to ensure that they were not mistreated. We will not mention names. They know. So these should be the voices of reason on this occasion. Some members worked in the night to ensure that people, members of the political class who are members of this House, were not mistreated. Mr. Speaker, let me remind colleagues, today, if you are praising the OSP, let's not forget that not too long ago, we had some of our members at the receiving end by the OSP. Don't let us also forget that even the president himself became a subject matter of OSP investigation. And he was not happy with certain words used by the OSP against him. So don't let us celebrate. Don't let us celebrate because today it is Ken Ofori-Atta. Mr. Speaker, all manner of things are being said that Ken has done this, has done that, has done that. I listened to my colleague from Keta, and I listened to my respected colleague from Bogatanga Central, enumerating what to him amount to offenses. And they also argued again that the man has not been tried, therefore there cannot be any human rights abuse. Mr. Speaker, if you invade somebody's home and raid his home, Article 18 of the Constitution protect that person, except when you are doing so lawfully. On this occasion, there was no such law. There was no such law.
supporting their actions. So they shouldn't be here happy with it. These 4 years will soon come. No, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, I think the honorable member's order, that response was in respect of the allegation of breach of natural justice. And you and I are very much aware that natural justice is in two main ways: the Odi Atram pattern and Nemo Judas in Council, but actually not in respect of the Constitution. The statement states there was a breach of natural justice.
Mr. Speaker, the contention here is that the man's home was raided by state security operatives, rather unlawfully. And I dare contend that that conduct was unconstitutional. That is my respectful submission, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have done a lot of follow-ups on this matter, and I regret to say that we are not sending the right signal to our electorate. Mr. Speaker, the man has put the state on notice of his absence from the jurisdiction. He has made available his medical records coming from a respected medical facility. Mr. Speaker, today, I repeat, if our friends think that it is another person, so it is okay, and they are describing Ken Ofori-Atta in all manner of forms, let me remind them that none can ever rule this country with perfection. The man, Mr. Speaker, at the risk of being repetitive, Honorable Stephen Amwa was clear in his language of submission that indeed the successful implementation of the free SHS was led by Ken Ofori-Atta as a finance minister. He made sure that he rolled out all important policy of government. Mr. Speaker, if you have any issue, follow due process of law. It is not enough for national security to raid his home. It is not enough to carry armed military men to his residence to terrorize his children and by extension his neighbors. Mr. Speaker, we must, as a house, be united with one voice to condemn this act. Today is Ken Ofori-Atta. Next will be other appointees. Mr. Speaker, we must not allow this. Mr. Speaker, only yesterday we saw the Attorney General applying to the court with an application we call noli prosequi in law, simply saying that he's discontinuing certain cases. That is within his right as an Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, what signal are we sending to the nation that, oh, if it is NDC and NDC is in power, it is right. If it is MPP and if it's MPP in power, it is right. Mr. Speaker, the political class of this country must rise above this. The political class of this country must rise above this. And I would conclude by saying that if indeed...
Honorable member, will you... No, I mean you are looking back. It is you I'm talking to. You are looking back. It is you I'm talking to. Will you listen to the leader in silence? Why? Leader, continue.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Member for Keta talked about karma. And I agree with him.
I've been reading a lot about karma. The wheels of karma indeed grind slowly, but with great surety. You have quoted it today. Enjoy it whilst it lasts. Mr. Speaker, today he says that we are reaping the fruits of a karmic effect of our actions. So it should be so. You have just come into government. You have a lot of projects you want to undertake. You'll be going to PPA. Ministers will be taking decisions. Some will be good, some will be bad. You will roll out policies for Ghanaians to benefit. Some will pay, some will not pay. You would engage the business community. So bear in mind that this karma you have just referred to, 4 years from today, we may. You can even call it 50 years. 50 years, 60 years. So let us solve the problem now. Let us encourage state security agencies with a mandate to investigate and prosecute to follow the law. Let's encourage them to follow the law. Honorable Nitiwu, in his submission, was being very emotional because just a week ago, he had to invite the leaders to intervene. Some and the clerk. Some people calling themselves state security operatives chased him, his car, a former defense minister. And when they saw the car papers, they now realized that whatever the information they had was wrong. A colonel had to come, and when he questioned them, that who sent you, they could not mention. So when we give certain wrong signals, some of those people at the lowest level take advantage to harass people, and even senior members who give order, when they realize that it is wrong, they are unable to even own up. Honorable Nitiwu, a former defense minister, suffered this just a week ago. It took the intervention of leadership and the clerk to Parliament to sanitize the situation. Is that what we want? Is that what we want? Mr. Lord Comey, his house was raided. They searched his house, took away all his cars, and after 3 days, they said, we are sorry. They brought the cars back. Is that how we want to govern the country? Mr. Speaker, I shall conclude by urging my colleagues to support this call in bringing sanity in the country so that nobody will take advantage to unleash any violence on anybody. I rest my case. Thank you.
Yes, majority leadership.
Mr. Speaker, before the statement was made, I had cautioned that this is a statement that definitely will generate commentary that will provoke debate in clear violation of our standing orders. And I caution that it is a statement that will attract comments that will go to perhaps damage the reputation of somebody who is not in this chamber. I cautioned. But my friends on the other side insisted and made a statement. Mr. Speaker, if you are a believer in the rule of law and you know the law, you know that if you claim that somebody has improperly searched your house or your property, you go to court. You go to court for the courts to declare that your property rights have been violated, that your dignity has been violated, and the courts are there to provide you that service.
of taking a decision as to whether or not indeed your rights have been violated. In court, the two sides will be there, and they will all be heard. But if you choose to use a political platform like this one, Parliament, to raise matters that, properly speaking, are the business of courts, you will receive political responses. And that is what I see happening here. Mr. Speaker, as for me, what I hear being said here is that there is a certain class called the political class, and that political class must take care of each other. And what I hear being said in this chamber is that taking care of each other means that we should not hold each other accountable. Mr. Speaker, I have always contended that it will be the most dangerous thing that will happen to the democracy of this country if a certain group called the political class are allowed to conspire to protect each other. Because what will happen, Mr. Speaker,
members, order.
Mr. Speaker, I am saying what I hear. What I hear. There has been several referrals to a group called political class. Did you hear that or not? Several times there was a referral to a group known as a political class. And several times a call on members of the political class not to do this to each other. And what do we mean by let's not do this to each other? Let's not, when there is a change in government, try to hold each other accountable this way or that way. I take a position that, indeed, the reason why the voters go and vote for one political party as against the other is so that they will come and hold each other accountable. The day that we stop holding each other accountable, that will be the day the electorate will lose confidence in this democracy. And when they lose confidence in this democracy, that is the end of democracy in Ghana. So we must hold each other accountable. When we vote for a new party and the party come, they owe a duty to those who voted them to hold those who have been taken out accountable. As for how they do it, it should be a matter of following due process and the law. Let's talk about nolle prosequi. I heard somebody mention nolle prosequi. And withdrawal of prosecutions. Mr. Speaker, if the state of Ghana, if the Republic of Ghana prosecutes a citizen for 8 years and is unable to convict that citizen, then there's a problem. There is a problem. How can the state mount a prosecution for 8 good years with all the resources at the disposal of the state and yet not be able to convict that citizen? Or at least get a ruling on that citizen. Either you are guilty or you are not guilty. So when you are unable and you try somebody for 8 good years, and you cannot secure a conviction, then clearly there's something wrong with the case. And so if another Attorney General comes and is convinced that you don't even have a basis for the prosecution and enters a nolle prosequi, that is not a case of clearing people. You had 8 good years to secure a conviction, and 8 years you failed. Clearly there's something wrong, and that is what has manifested itself in a nolle prosequi. Mr. Speaker, let me say that I cautioned against making the statement because I didn't want us to go into a situation where we'll be making unfair comments about somebody who is not in the chamber to defend himself. Mr. Speaker, the facts are simple. That military officers, policemen, and national security personnel invaded, entered, searched the private property of the former Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I will not run any commentary on that matter until I have conducted some investigations, ascertain what the facts are, and then I will come and appraise this House of exactly what happened so that we can be properly informed. If there is anything that we should condemn about what has happened, we can collectively as a House condemn it. I caution you that don't make statements that would involve commentary that will undermine the image of someone, because I will not be happy if it is done to me, and that is why I objected. And so I'm not going to join colleagues to comment on the statement, except to add that the Office of Special Prosecutor has been severally mentioned. This was an office that was established to investigate and prosecute alleged cases of corruption and abuse of office by public officers. They have indicated that in this instance, they are investigating the former finance minister for two stated matters that they are investigating, which is matters relating to SML. I'm sure you are all aware that it was a big issue in this country where it is alleged that there was some corruption scandal relating to revenue assurance contracts awarded by the Ministry of Finance and the GRA to SML. And then secondly, there's this big issue of the National Cathedral, which we all know the story of, that some monies were paid for work that is supposed to have been done there, and it is alleged that the work has not been done. So the special prosecutor is seized with the matter, is investigating the matter, and wants the former finance minister to appear before them for some investigation. They indicate that there are two other matters they are investigating, but they haven't indicated exactly what those two other matters are. So, Mr. Speaker, let's be cautious not to make statements that will be prejudicial to the work of the special prosecutor. And that was why I cautioned and advised that we shouldn't raise the matter in this chamber. But once we've made the issue a matter for discussion in this chamber, we cannot also begrudge those who run commentary on the personality of the former finance minister. But let me touch a little on this issue of using the military. Mr. Speaker, I shouldn't say this, but I am compelled to say it. The Electoral Commissioner, I have observed that for several years, a whole military battalion was placed in front of her house to protect her house. At a time when Nitiwul was the defense minister, didn't Nitiwul know that the police are available to provide security to the Electoral Commissioner? Nitiwul, he was defense minister, and he placed a whole military battalion at the entrance of the Electoral Commissioner's residence. And the Electoral Commissioner was guarded by soldiers who followed her all the time. Today, the same Nitiwul let me repeat it whilst he's here. Sit down, let me repeat what I said in your presence. I'm saying that you are very concerned about the use of the military to conduct searches in people's homes. And I'm reminding you that whilst you stood there as Minister for Defense and sat there as Minister for Defense, had oversight over the military, you used the military to guard the residence of the Electoral Commissioner, true or false?
Mr. Speaker, he used the military to provide personal security for the electoral commissioner.
I recognize Honorable Dominic Nitiwul on the point of order.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. And I want to thank the majority leader for dragging me back to the chamber. It is true, Mr. Speaker, that on the advice of state security, we gave soldiers to certain categories of people, including your good self.
Honorable Nitiwul will be guided by Standing Order 122.
Thank you. We didn't give to the electoral commissioner and the deputies. We gave to the OSP, and we also gave to the Speaker of Parliament. So it is true, and not just soldiers. There were joint soldiers and police. So that is true. But Mr. Speaker, that is different from, and they were not a battalion. First of all, they were not a battalion. A battalion of soldiers is 800 to 1,000 soldiers. So there was not a battalion. There were anything between 3 soldiers and 4 soldiers at a time.
So, Honorable Nitiwul, let me understand you. He alluded to the fact that when you are a defense minister, they use soldiers to guide.
Mr. Speaker, he did say that I use a battalion of soldiers to protect the electoral commissioner.
I heard soldiers.
I never use a battalion of soldiers to protect the electoral commissioner.
Honorable Nitiwul.
It is true.
The word used is soldiers. I have heard soldiers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me confirm again that the electoral commissioner enjoyed the use, not just the electoral commissioner, the electoral commissioner, the speaker for about 2 years, the OSP, up to now the OSP, they enjoy the services of soldiers and police to guide them on the advice of state security. And at any time, and I wrote to them, and that at any time that we felt that circumstances demanded that we withdraw either the soldiers or the police, we will do that. And each of them had between 3 to 6 soldiers, depending on the circumstances. So it is true.
What is the point of order within the meaning of Standing Order 122?
So the point of order is that at no point did I use a battalion of soldiers to protect any individual.
Mr. Speaker, the simple point I want to make is that all regimes at all times have used the military together with the police in certain operations. You agree that that is the case? So today, if you see the military and the police working together, you cannot suddenly create an impression that something that is unacceptable has happened. Because we have used them together. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, night security, just night security. When we should be deploying the police, we often deploy them with the soldiers. With the soldiers. So let's not make it look like, for the first time, something that has never been heard of is happening in this country simply because a joint military and police team have visited the residence of the former finance minister. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Alfred.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know what raid means. I don't know what raid means, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't know who was in the residence at that time. That's why I said give me time to conduct some enquiries and come and brief the House. But the first point I want to make is that don't make it seem as if something unheard of has happened because soldiers and police have visited the residence of a former finance minister. Mr. Speaker,
As for the issues that have been mentioned here, the conduct of searches, the prosecution of politicians, investigation of politicians, we've all gone through all of that, and we are standing here, including my very good self. The OSP has investigated me, has taken me to, the court. I have fought my case. I have won. I won. So I advise you,
Honorable Majority Leader, please address the chair. Honorable Dominic Nitiwool,
I advise you.
You are a senior member of the House.
Instead of making it a subject of debate in this chamber, please go and answer the questions, like some of us boldly and confidently went and answered the questions. We were investigated, we were arraigned in court, we responded to our charges, we defended ourselves, and we got judgments in our favor. And then we are free people. That is how a democracy functions. Don't make it look like suddenly a particular class is under attack because institutions of state that are supposed to hold us accountable have activated themselves and are doing their work. I don't know if there was any raid, but I know that whether police or soldiers, any member of the security agencies can be used at any time. In an effort to engage in law enforcement. That's how I see it. But like I said, I will check, double check, and come back to you with a report of exactly what happened. This House has a duty to protect the human rights of citizens. If you check our own standing orders, you know that we even have a committee, a human rights committee. And the job of the Human Rights Committee is to take on human rights complaints, investigate them, and then take the appropriate decisions in respect of those complaints. So we have a human rights mandate. And so if anybody thinks that his or her rights have been violated and decides not to go to the Human Rights Commission or to go to the High Court to seek an enforcement of their rights, but choose to make a petition to Parliament, Parliament's Human Rights Committee has a duty to take on the petition, investigate it, and then give appropriate direction. Because we don't have a committee yet, I undertake, as the leader of this House, to look into the matter, get some reports, and come and present it to you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable members, this House is a house of debate, and we are guided by rules in the conduct of business, be it question, statement, motion, resolutions, among others. I must state that the manner in which the matter under consideration has been carried out certainly leaves much to be desired. Honourable members, Order 93 is very clear on prior indulgence of the House and the leave of the Speaker in the Speaker's admission of statement. The Speaker in the chair then indulged the maker of the statement with caution that honorable members will be circumspect and measured in their pronouncement. Unfortunately, in my own opinion, some honorable members certainly went overboard. Rules are made to guide proceedings. Where there are no rules, the Speaker is enjoined to provide appropriate interventions. I urge honorable members to be on the guide accordingly in order for order, decorum, and decency to characterize proceedings on the floor of this House. We must also be cautious to uphold the right of persons who do not have audience on the floor of the House in our conduct of proceedings. They may not have the opportunity
to be heard on the floor of the House.
Right, so you've been watching live proceedings from Parliament on the matter regarding Ken Ofori-Atta. Now, there's also a breaking story now where the Attorney General is also addressing some recent matters on the discontinuation of cases that were pending in court and recent developments within government and, of course, perhaps the raid at Ken Ofori-Atta's house. But that's our show for it. My name is Elton Boy. I'll take you now live to the Office of the Attorney General Minister of Justice as he addressed the media.
The professional decision I took that in my current position as Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and for that matter, the prosecutor in those cases, I was not going to suddenly recount my professional position and continue to prosecute the accused persons in those two cases. No new evidence has been presented to me upon assumption of office as Attorney General to cause me to abandon my professional convictions. As an aside, in any decent constitutional democracy, the disgraceful and unethical conduct of the former Attorney General, the Honorable Godfred Yebo Adame, in interfering with a key witness who also happened to be the second accused in the Atto-Forsen case, should have resulted automatically in a mistrial. But let us leave that for another day. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, the second reason why I dropped the charges in some of the cases, as I stated above, is that the charges were defective and upon careful scrutiny were filed against the promptings of plain common sense. In the case of Republic versus Collins Dowda and others, for instance, the first accused was charged with misapplying public funds to the tune of 200 million United States of American dollars. In laying the charges, the prosecution failed and or neglected to take account of the basic fact that it was part of that 200 million US dollars that was used to construct the houses at Shagleme. In other words, the value of that built environment is, in my considered opinion, a key determinant of how much of the total sum was allegedly misapplied by the Honorable Collins Dowda. Discounting the value of the built environment renders those charges, in my considered opinion, defective. The prosecution in this case also failed and or neglected to take account of payments that were made by other ministers who took office after the Honorable Collins Dowda. For instance, the Honorable Atachia, as Minister of Works and Housing, approved a payment to the tune of 5 million United States of American dollars in 2017. That ought to have been considered in determining the value of state funds that the Honorable Collins Dowda had misapplied. But that wasn't done. And note, ladies and gentlemen of the media, that the Honorable Atachia was never charged, even though the Honorable Collins Dowda was charged subsequent to the actions of the Honorable Atachia. So I leave that to your own considered judgment as to why that happened. Now, in criminal law, an accused is entitled to know with precision the crime that he has committed and the burden that he must discharge in order to prove his innocence. This is basic criminal jurisprudence, and the charges in this case, and the other in terms of the cases affecting the other accused persons, fail to meet the standard of precision required to put an accused person on notice of his criminal liability. Ladies and gentlemen, the third reason why I dropped the charges in some of the cases was that the evidence adduced so far fell significantly short of what was required to convict the accused persons, and yet the state pressed on with the prosecutions. I consider that to be a total waste of state resources. As noted by Puamang JSC in Afoko and Attorney General, that is the case that I cited earlier, the prosecution may enter a nolle prosequi in situations where, upon review of the proceedings, the Attorney General detects fatal flaws in the case which may lead to the acquittal of an accused person. In other words, a nolle prosequi may be entered to avoid possible verdict against the prosecution. My review of some of the cases certainly revealed fatal flaws in the case of the prosecution. A few examples are in order. In 2 of the banking trials still ongoing, I took the decision to withdraw the charges against Mr. Johnson Pundit Asiama for a simple reason that in the course of my review of the cases, my attention was drawn to an internal memo prepared by the Prosecutions Division of our department for the attention of the former Attorney General, the Honorable Godfred Yeboah-Dame, which recommended that the charges against him be dropped. This is very significant. This is an internal memo prepared by professional prosecutors advising the Attorney General that the charges against our current Bank of Ghana, the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, be dropped. Note that Mr. Johnson Pundit Asiama was charged with contravention of the Banking Act for granting a facility of 300 million cedis to Universal Merchant Bank and for causing financial loss to the state in the sum of 150 million Ghana cedis. The internal memo, which I just cited earlier, concluded as follows. This is very instructive. It says, a study of the facts of the case indicates that the initial facility of 300 million has been recovered, leaving 150 million outstanding. This office has confirmed from the Bank of Ghana, that is, the Attorney General's office has confirmed from the Bank of Ghana through Mr. Alexander Tarr, that is PW2, prosecution witness 2, that the interest from the outstanding amount is presently being serviced by UMB Bank. Mr. Tarr also indicated that UMB has an amount of 150 million locked up with CBG, that is Consolidated Bank Ghana. It is expected that when the said sum is released to UMB, the loan amount for which A3, that is Johnson Pundit Asiama, was charged with causing financial loss to the state will be repaid to the Bank of Ghana. This therefore may render the charges proffered against A3, that is Johnson Asiama, moot, leading to his discharge. So the professional opinion of the prosecution division was very, very clear that the charges against the current governor of the Bank of Ghana are unsustainable. In other words, factually, and then in terms of the evidence available, he could not be convicted of the offenses charged. Obviously, the former Attorney General failed to act on these recommendations which were made to him by the prosecution division. If he disagreed with the recommendations, I am unable to say, but I agree with them. Based upon these recommendations, I dropped the charges against Johnson Pundit Asiama in both the Unibank and UT Bank cases. In coming to this decision, I am fortified by the rule contained in Rule 40, Sub-Rule 2, Clause A of the Legal Professional Conduct and Etiquette Rules 2020, that is LI 2423, which provides that in a criminal case, a prosecutor shall refrain from prosecuting a charge that the prosecutor knows is not supported by the facts. But note that I have not yet dropped the charges against the remaining accused persons because I am currently in discussions with the receivers in order to understand the financial implications of any decision I may take in the future. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, my third reason for dropping the charges was that in some of the cases, the evidence led so far showed that there was reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the accused persons. And as stated earlier, the ethics of the legal profession mandate that a prosecutor should not continue to pursue a case in the face of overwhelming doubt regarding the guilt of the accused. In other words, where a charge is not supported by the facts and evidence, a prosecutor is ethically enjoined to drop the charges. I'll give you an example. In the case of Republic versus Stephen Opuni and another, the entire case was built around the fact that an untested liquid fertilizer, Litovit, was purchased by Cocoa Board, and further that the fertilizer was not efficacious. In the event, according to the case of the state, all sums of money spent by Cocoa Board to purchase this fertilizer caused financial loss to the state. Rather strangely, not a single farmer was called by the prosecution to prove this fact. On the contrary, officials at Cocoa Board who were invited by the investigators gave statements to the effect that Little Bit fertilizer was one of the most effective fertilizers purchased by Cocoa Board, and that the farmers preferred Little Bit fertilizer to the granular fertilizer. More importantly, in the course of the investigations, Cocoa Board took statements from two farmers. Whilst one stated that he did not see any significant change on his farm, the second farmer stated that after using Little Bit fertilizer, he saw a significant increase in yield, and that Little Bit fertilizer is a very good fertilizer. Again, in the course of the trial, the defense tendered an official report from Cocoa Board which covered field visits by Cocoa Board officials. The report, which was tendered, was to the effect that Little Bit fertilizer is a very good fertilizer and that farmers actually prefer it to other fertilizers, and was the fertilizer of choice in areas in which Little Bit fertilizer was supplied. This is clear evidence that, contrary to the case of the prosecution, the use of Little Bit fertilizer rather increased the yield. The farmers who used Little Bit fertilizer, including the then national best farmer, in their evidence testified that Little Bit fertilizer increased, the use of Little Bit fertilizer increased their yield, and that it was a good fertilizer. During the course of their investigations, the investigators had two reports from Ghana Standards Authority on Little Bit fertilizer. The first report, which was later confirmed to have been done, and listen to this carefully, members of the press, to have been done at the Cosmetics Department of GSA, the department which does not have the mandate to test Little Bit fertilizer, okay, indicated that the sample of Little Bit fertilizer submitted for testing did not have any fertilizer ingredient in it. This finding was challenged by the accused persons and the investigators, together with representatives of Cocoa Board and the suppliers of Little Bit fertilizer, took a second sample from the warehouse of Cocoa Board. This sample, which was again tested by the same Ghana Standards Authority, but this time by the proper department with a mandate to test fertilizers, concluded that the samples taken was fertilizer in the first place, and that the fertilizer was efficacious. Furthermore, it is interesting to note that in this case, the complainant, that is Dr. Edu Ampoma, who was the third prosecuting witness, PW3, lied under oath to implicate the accused persons, for which reason a perjury application was filed by Dr. Stephen Okuni against him. The then trial judge, Justice Hoinuga, for reasons which are totally unacceptable, did not hear the application, but rather stated that hearing the application will prejudice the hearing of the main case. He therefore adjourned the application until the conclusion of the case. This is most unacceptable because in a criminal trial, it is important to hold the scale of justice evenly, and any doubt raised must inure to the benefit of the accused persons. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, my fellow countrymen and women, the judiciary in our country is independent under the Constitution. In the context of criminal justice, judges demonstrate their independence by remaining neutral and impartial arbiters in disputes between the state and individual citizens. The scales of justice must be held in a delicate balance between the obligation of the state to prosecute crime and the right of the accused to a fair trial. Conduct by judges that undermines the fair trial rights of citizens should be concerning to a self-respecting prosecutor. Without meaning to impugn the integrity of any of the judges who were involved in the cases in respect of which I have either entered a nolo prosequi or withdrawn the charges, I am deeply concerned not only about the conduct of some of the judges, but also concerned about the fact that the executive branch took certain actions that could be reasonably interpreted as inducements to convict the accused persons. An ethical prosecutor must endeavor to protect the innocent and convict the guilty. And one cannot do so if the judiciary is not impartial. When Justice Hohenuga single-handedly expunged otherwise exculpatory evidence from the record in the Opuni case, and then proceeded to rule that the accused had a case to answer in his ruling on submission of no case, he was far from portraying a semblance of neutrality. Indeed, he directly undermined the fair trial rights of the accused persons. Again, when in accordance with law and practice, Justice Anoche Jima decided that he was going to hold a de novo trial, that is a new trial, in the same Opuni case after when Hohenuga went on retirement, the retirement of Hohenuga. He was instantly transferred to Kumasi, and the case was allocated to a new judge, who then proceeded to adopt the proceedings and continued the prosecution. Also, the decision by the executive branch of government to promote some judges who were sitting on some of the cases is very concerning. The perception, whether true or not, is that the promotion may be an inducement to convict the accused persons. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, fellow countrymen and women, in conclusion, I wish to make it abundantly clear that I did not take these decisions lightly. As I indicated above, I consulted widely and reviewed the files diligently before coming to a decision on each of the cases. You would note that in some cases, such as the Snake case and the banking cases, I withdrew the charges against some of the accused persons, while others are still under consideration. I am keenly aware of the need to balance the public interest, in this case, against the interests and rights of the accused persons. Also, as Attorney General, I take absolute responsibility for all the decisions so far taken. I am not under any instructions or pressure to discontinue any case or to bring charges against anyone. Those who are in a haste to tag His Excellency the President of the Republic as a clearing agent should hasten slowly, because he is not responsible for prosecutions and has not directed me to drop any case. Moreover, with the exception of one charge of bribery in the Opuni matter, in respect of which, no evidence was laid, none of the persons affected by my decision so far has looted state resources. There is a gulf of difference between the offense of causing financial loss to the state or misapplication of state funds and the offenses of bribery, corruption, or that of using public office for private gain. In the latter offenses, the individual charge can be accurately labeled as looters. In the former, it will be thoroughly unfair and actually defamatory to label the accused persons who have, as people who have looted state resources. So I thank you very much. These are the reasons for my decisions, and I will now take questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Alfred Okanse. I work with Media Journal, TV3, 3FM, Onia FM, Onia TV. First off, I want to find out if this, what we are seeing now with you giving reasons for the decisions taken, is a standard that would continue in subsequent decisions of discontinuing cases, if you are going to discontinue any more cases from today. And then also, these persons who are affected by these cases that you have discontinued, have any of them sought compensation from the state? because of what, according to you, they have been subjected to, which you say is unfair. And then also, from the reasons that you gave, especially with reference to the Atto-Forsen and the banking sector cleanup case, you reference the unprofessional conduct of the former Attorney General. Are you minded or going to consider taking any action whatsoever against him if that's the position that you take because of the description that you give to some of the decisions that he took? And maybe finally, you give very detailed reasoning for the decision to discontinue the case against Dr. Siama. With the UMB, clearly, as indicated, 300 million has been paid, 150 million outstanding, and there are already measures to have UMB, that money unlocked with CBG. But in the UT Bank case that he was involved in as well, what reasons did you have in discontinuing that charge against him? Thank you.
Senior, my name is Hansen Ajuman. I work with CTFM Channel 1 TV. On the first reason, which has to do with the ethics, and because you were lawyer for some of the accused persons, even though you did not represent them in court, I want to find out, would that be the posture going forward for all cases that your firm may have represented that the Attorney General's office is prosecuting? And because as a lawyer, you would definitely have to have faith in the case that your juniors will take before you allow them to do so, or yourself will do so, meaning that those cases you're going to discontinue seeing. And then for the second and third reasons, for some of the cases, people think that there are genuine reasons why the state should go against some people. For instance, for the Saglemi housing case, apart from the fact that the facts as the Attorney General's department made known that the houses were less than the number that was initially contracted for, and more money has actually been expended than what was agreed, the house or the housing project itself has stalled, and Ghanaians will want somebody to take the fall for that. Should we take it that this is the end, or you're reviewing your books to see if you can get some better evidence and even get some other people to prosecute? Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Alfred, for that battery of questions. Yes, as I made clear in the statement that I read to you, I think that every Attorney General has a constitutional obligation to make clear his or her decisions when it comes to dropping charges, whether you are entering a nolle prosequi or you are actually withdrawing the charges. That is because I think that an Attorney General is not above the Constitution, and an Attorney General is subject to the requirements of Article 296. Now, for those of you who are interested, Article 296 is on the exercise of discretionary power, all right? And the power to prosecute is discretionary in nature, okay? You have to make a decision to file the charges. You have to make a decision regarding the witnesses that you want to call. You have to make a decision, regarding whether or not to drop charges, as I've just done, and so on. So it's discretionary in nature, and it's subject to the provisions of Article 296, which says that, the exercise of discretionary power cannot be arbitrary, all right? And then the exerciser of the power must be fair and candid, right? Now, I don't know how anybody can be candid without explaining themselves, okay? So for me, I think that this is a practice that has to continue. I may not in future be calling a press conference of this nature, but at least I may issue a press release, basically outlining the reasons why I have taken, I've taken a decision in respect of a prosecution or the other. Then your second question relating to compensation. I have not cited any formal request for compensation. As Attorney General, I'm not going to encourage it, and that if any request for compensation come, take it from me, I will fight it. Okay, take it from me, I'm going to fight it. Okay, so I'm not serving a warning to them not to bring requests for compensation, but if they do, I will fight it. Okay, now your third question said something about unprofessional conduct. I think I've... Yes. The former Attorney General. I think I want to reserve my views on that one. And to say that when we come to the bridge, we will cross it. So I'm reserving my comments on that one. Now, if you notice from the internal memo that I was referring to, there were two segments. One, the 300 million was in relation to Unibank. The 150 was actually in relation to UT. All right, and the memo covered both. And that is how come that I was comfortable dropping the charges, in both. Because, I took the view, which was, shared by the professional prosecutors, that a charge of causing financial loss to the state will not be sustainable. The reason is simple. The charge of causing financial loss to the state is a legal concept, but it is drawn from accounting. All right? Now, if you say that financial loss has been caused, it means that through either the intentional or reckless or negligent actions of a public officer, all right, the state has incurred a loss that is irrecoverable. Now, I have always taken the view that where the so-called loss is recoverable, then it is notionally, and practically not a loss. So if the state can pursue and recover it, I'll be hesitant to take action against a person. But what has happened, look, let's go back to the history. The offense of causing financial loss to the state was first enacted under PNDC Law 78, I think. And that provision said anyone who does an act with intent to sabotage the economy of Ghana, all right, commits an offense. Okay, when we came into constitutional rule, because of the vague nature of the provision in PNDC Law 78, the lawmakers decided to redefine it, and that is how come that the offense of causing financial loss to the state, is on our statute books. All right. So for me, I think that unless we have a situation where the loss is, irrecoverable, right, then you should not charge a person for causing financial loss. That is why the professional opinion of the prosecution division, is telling, because basically what it said was that, okay, the amounts in question for which the current governor of the Bank of Ghana was charged, okay, have been recovered. So if you've recovered the amount, then no loss has been caused to the state. So he should be discharged. Okay? It's as simple as that. Why the former Attorney General decided to, proceed with the charges and to put down, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Johnson Esiama, through the harrowing experience of attending court with potential consequences for his liberty. I am yet, to find out. Okay, but I do think that ultimately, I haven't seen his reasons. He might have, given some reasons to the prosecution division. I haven't seen them, but I think that my guess is as good as yours. It was probably animated more by politics than by law. Right?
Make that memo public for us all to see it, just in the spirit of transparency as you're doing now.
Well, I will think about it, because let me tell you something. There are public officers still serving in my department, all right, who are, who authored this memo. I have to think carefully about the consequences for them, in making the memo, public, all right, before I can do so. I have to be very considerate in making that decision. So I'm not ruling it out, but I have to be very considerate in doing so. Yeah. Yes. Not GH1. Is it City? Channel 1. Yes, you asked about whether this is going to be my posture in all other cases in which my firm, is involved. The answer is no. The answer is no. That is because in some of the criminal cases, and I don't think my firm has taken any cases that, are as high profile as this, right? But if they are defending a murderer, I don't see why I should step in and, say I'm entering a nolle prosequi. Okay? Now, I will be very concerned if the state interest, okay, the state interest in the matter, okay, the state interest in the matter, has consequences. One, for the finances of the state or property of the state. I'll be concerned if it has consequences for the constitutional democracy that we operate. All right. But of course, I will be very careful with my juniors in chambers, taking every case and trying to bring it, to my attention. So this won't be the posture, because I will be very ethical. And of course, if there are situations of conflict of interest, I will recuse myself from decision making that may result in accusations of conflict of interest. Sagleme housing. Very complex. Your question is, I think it's a very good question, because come to think of it, okay, for 8 years, that housing estate was left to the vagaries of the weather. All right. Despite the fact that the Honorable Collins Dauda and his colleagues were being prosecuted for various, offenses relating to the use of the funds that, were voted for the housing estate. The estate was left to the vagaries of the weather. The houses deteriorated, all right? They were vandalized, and so on and so forth, okay? I think that at some point in time, there has to be some accountability exacted, all right? But it was the manner in which this was done that gave me cause to say that I'm aborting prosecutions, all right? Because take the case of Collins Dauda. At the time that Collins Dauda left office, okay, the expenditure on Sagleme was at 94 million. But he was being accused of misapplying 200 million. Now, some of you are lawyers or law students, others are just journalists, but just apply common sense. Why should somebody be charged for cost misapplying 200 million US dollars. When it is very clear that whilst he was in office, it was only 94 million that was spent. Okay, that is telling. Secondly, in 2017, the Honorable Attaché, as I've mentioned, did exactly the same thing that Colin Zawda did as minister. At the request of the consultants, he signed certificates totaling 5 million United States of American dollars. All right? He was not charged for misapplying state funds. He was never even mentioned. It was in the course of the proceedings that it came up. And the judge was even shocked and asked, rhetorically, are you bringing 2017 matters, to this case? Okay, so my decision was based upon the charges as framed. Okay, but it doesn't mean that I have abandoned the quest for accountability in the Sagleme matter. So I may come back to it as far as, the quest for accountability is concerned. Are there any other questions?
We'll just take two more and then wrap up. Two more questions.
Thank you very much. My name is Mutala Inusa. I work with EIB Network, GH1 TV, and Star FM. With respect to the cases that you have filed nolle prosequa and those that you have filed withdrawals, for the people out there, for those who are following the case, those who are in court, to really understand that the AG has a discretion, like you have mentioned, and the AG also make the point that going ahead with the cases, the point is that the state is going to waste resources and all of that. In the minds of the ordinary Ghanaians, once the AG do not have a case, and those cases were not initiated by your administration, would it not be expedient enough to allow the court processes to continue? At the end, the court will acquit and discharge them if there are no cases. Again, with respect to some of the things that you have spoken about, the Sagleme affordable housing case, one thing is curious. You've mentioned, Honorable Attaché, that he's done certain things by issuing payment of certain amount of that. So Honorable Collins Dauda cannot be held responsible for misapplying 200 million Ghana cedis. This is a case that you file a nolle prosequa, meaning that in the future it could be revisited. Is it the point that you are looking at reviewing the cases again, and at some point in time we will see Attaché and possibly Collins Dauda back in court? And my last one, I want to find out what is the latest with James Chachi, because one of the cases that you mentioned in one of your earlier interviews, and of course, the case regarding Oliver Barker, former the treason felony one, also pending at the court. And of course, you didn't say anything about the Democracy Hub cases that you also filed a nolle prosequa in respect of.
Last question, please. I think that was the last question.
Okay, all right. Yeah, thank you very much, Mutala, for the questions. Now, I have given you reasons why any prosecutor who takes the ethics of his profession seriously, okay, should not continue to prosecute a matter when he has come to the conclusion that the facts and the evidence do not support it. Okay, I cited Rule 40, Sub-Rule 2, Clause A of the legal profession, professional etiquette and conduct rules. I am bound by those rules, despite the fact that I am the Attorney General of the Republic. I am first of all a lawyer before being the Attorney General. If I were not a lawyer, I would not be appointed Attorney General. So I'm bound by those rules. And so if I have assessed a matter and come to the conclusion that factually and in terms of the evidence, that matter, I should not continue to prosecute the matter, all right? I will be in violation of the rules of the profession if I continued, in that direction. So that is my basic reason, right? I cannot violate the rules just because I want the public to feel that, okay, they were tried and acquitted, okay? Then also, I have told you that when you have filed a nolle prosequi, the possibility is there that you can file fresh charges, all right? Yes, so this is not the end of the road. We will look carefully at the actions of each of the individuals that were involved in making decisions about Saglemi, all right? And then make sure that if we are going to exact accountability, we have a factual and evidentiary basis for exacting accountability. Now, come to think of it, when consultants have gone to the field and made an assessment, they've examined the built environment and issued a certificate saying that work has been done commensurate with the value of the certificate, with a memo to Mr. Minister. Now, tell me if it is your view that the minister must leave his desk, go to the field, go and make sure that what they have said is true, even where the minister is not an architect, he's not an expert, he's not a quantity surveyor. You expect that he should go to the field and go and make that determination before coming to say, please pay this certificate. I leave that to, you to think about. So when I am reviewing Saglemi, I will take account of all these factors before coming to a conclusion that someone has been engaged in wrongdoing. Okay? And it is going to be a painstaking exercise. I want to assure Ghanaians that I am not the type of Attorney General who will file a case and go back and look for evidence after I have filed. That has happened several times in this republic. And that was displayed very publicly when you heard the Japa Gate, matter. Okay? When the former Attorney General was basically coaching the witness and telling him what to say in court. That is where you file a case and then you go back, you take a step backward to go and look, for evidence. I will not do that. And that is why I want to assure those who are saying that has been a delay in prosecuting people. All right? We are going to be diligent in our investigations. And that may take time. Exacting accountability is not a political exercise. It's not just a political exercise. It also involves legal technical matters that must be carefully considered by a team of investigators, prosecutors, and finally, the Attorney General. Regarding Democracy Hub, and the rest of them, I thought that your interest was in knowing why the public office holders were left off the hook. I have discontinued the charges, I've dropped the charges against the public office holders. As far as Democracy Hub is concerned, I took the view and I expressed it, I don't know whether Alfred remembers, but I expressed it on your network, that the prosecution was totally unwarranted and that it had the potential of violating the rights of the citizens to express themselves in the form of demonstrations. I had taken that legal professional view. So I didn't see any reason why I should now come, very much like the cases in which I have said that because of my strong professional and ethical views about them, I did not see the reason why just because I have changed position now, I'm the Attorney General, I should continue to prosecute anybody who was involved in those cases. In the case of Democracy Hub, I was not involved professionally, but I took the view that it was a violation of their right to freedom of expression. So those of you look at, Article 33 of the Constitution is, on the enforcement of fundamental, human rights. The exceptions are very, very clear. And you must demonstrate one of those exceptions in order to say that a person cannot, that is 33 clause 5 of the Constitution. You must demonstrate with evidence that a person is not entitled to the exercise of his fundamental right. And I don't think that happened in the Democracy Hub, cases. So I discontinued them. And rightly so. Yes. Which one? Oh, Jachi Kwesin. Okay. So in the case of Jachi Kwesin, as I noted, I did not take these decisions without consulting the defense lawyers in all the cases. I consulted the defense lawyers. All right. The reason for the consultation was so that I am not seen as acting in an arbitrary manner. Okay. So I decided to consult all the defense lawyers. And of course, the lawyer for Jachi Kwesin is the venerable, senior, and respected Tachuchi Kata. So I had not once, but 2 long sessions of discussions with him. And he told me he wants to soldier on and prove the innocence of his client. And I respected that view. So that is how come that Jachi Kwesin is not part of those that I have, discontinued. Thank you for drawing my attention to that. I have not yet reviewed it, but thank you for drawing my attention to that. Good. Well, I thought that was the last question by Mutala. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yes. Good evening. I'm Kenneth. I work with Joy News.
Okay.
I work with Joy News. My questions, the first one is, there's been name calling that the ordinary Ghanaian is saying that President John Dramani Mahama has become a clearing agent. Mm-hmm. My question is, are these cases, is the president aware that you've dropped these cases? What is the president's opinion on these cases? And then the last one is, just today, the special prosecutor declared the former finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, wanted. I want to pick your thoughts on that. And then when are you also going to start with your own prosecution of cases? We know that the oral committee has finally submitted their report to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in the spirit of the discontinuation of the case, I want to find out if you're going to review the case of Gregory Afoko. That is one that has come up for mention after these decisions that you took recently. And then also the killings in the 2020 elections. When are you going to also pay attention to that? Because the president has directed the IGP to investigate and put together a report. Yeah. Any update on that, please?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Ken, from Joy News, your first question is the accusation of a clearing agent labeled at His Excellency. Now, if you all recall, the former president, the title clearing agent was used to refer to the former president, that is His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. When the term was used, it was rightly used because Nana Addo Dankwa, His Excellency, was directly involved in most of the time, issuing statements, writing letters. I saw the love letter to Cecilia Dapa stating that he is very, confident that he will be innocent. He will be declared innocent. All right. So that is how Ghanaians labeled him the clearing agent. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama cannot be labeled a clearing agent. Because as I've said in my statement, all right, he's not been involved in any decision. I have not briefed him on any of these decisions, all right. I will, at the appropriate time, maybe do a cabinet memo, all right, so that His Excellency and my cabinet colleagues will be formally informed of the decisions that I have taken. All right, until then, His Excellency remains innocent and stands far away from the decisions that I've taken. And I have told you that I am, taking absolute responsibility for all the decisions, okay, as the Attorney General. It is my responsibility. If there's any fault in the decisions I've taken, I will take I am taking responsibility, today, and I'll take responsibility in the future. Regarding the OSP, recall that the OSP law seeks to make the OSP independent of the Attorney General. Now, even though I disagree entirely with it, not because I am now Attorney General and I want powers over the OSP, but if you go back to the Parliamentary Hansard, when the law was being enacted, I was one of those who argued strongly that that power rightly belongs to the Attorney General under the Constitution. When I was making those arguments, the Honorable Gloria Ekufu was the Attorney General, right? I wasn't the Attorney General, and I had not dreamt of becoming Attorney General. So I wasn't trying to arrogate to myself any powers then, okay? However, because the legislative intent is to make the OSP independent of the Attorney General, I am a bit reluctant to interfere in the work of the OSP. However, I think that it is only right that because he's exercising prosecutorial authority, which belongs to me under Article 88(3) of the Constitution, all right, I should be in the know regarding, his actions. So he's one of the agents, OSP is one of the agencies under the Attorney General's Department, and at the appropriate time, I will call for a briefing on everything that he has done, including the press conference that he held, today. I myself, woke up to the press conference. I did not know that he had taken those actions. I'm not blaming him for taking the actions. Until I know the substantive content of the actions he's taken, I cannot, begin to say anything about them. There was a third one, Ken, if you remind me. Yeah, when am I going to start prosecutions? As I said earlier, mounting a prosecution is a very, very, very painstaking adventure. Okay, so we are going to look at the oral report. In fact, we have started reviewing them. My able Deputy Attorney General designate, the Honorable Justice Sumsai, has been tasked with reviewing the reports. We'll be having our first meeting, technical meeting, on Friday. And if there are any low-hanging fruits, I am sure you'll see prosecutions taking place, before the end of the month or even into the early parts of next month. All right, but as I said, my position is that I will not charge anybody and go back and look for evidence, okay, against them. I will never do that. Look, maybe I should tell you this. In July of 2017, I was in my house when my son came and knocked on my door and told me that he had seen on the CCTV gun-wielding policemen at the gate. This was around 6:30. So I woke up, freshened up, looked into my own, the CCTV, And I saw them. I recognized one of them because as Deputy Attorney General, I used to work with them. So I recognized them. Because I recognized him, I said, no problem. They are not armed robbers. So let them in. They came in and then said they were investigating me for corruption. In the Ameri, in respect of the Ameri plant. Okay? So I asked them, okay, what did they want? If they were going to put me under arrest, I was ready to be arrested. If they wanted to search my house, I just wanted a search warrant. Now they refused to give me the search warrant, and I refused to allow them to search the house. Eventually, when they showed me the search warrant, it detailed only 3 items. Okay? Documents, computers, and phones. So I told them, okay, so you have an arrest warrant that limits you to taking these items. So please go ahead and take them. They went ahead and took them. As for the documents, I told them they can go back to the AG's department because I didn't steal any documents on that transaction and take them home. So they left. After a while, they looked through the entire house. Then they left. They actually placed me formally under arrest. But then one of them, the inspector, said there was no need to take me in handcuffs to the police station. Now, after everything, they combed my laptops and phones and everything. They did their investigation. They found nothing. Absolutely nothing. Okay? And then they returned the laptop to me. Why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because it was one of the most harrowing experiences that I've had in my public life. Very harrowing. The fact that you wake up in the morning and there are policemen, in your house, searching the house, and then potentially they could take me into. I've never slept in a police house. a police station. I've never done that. I have defended criminals and gone to see what they go through. I don't want to put anybody's father or mother through that unless there is a reasonable basis to do so. So we are going to be very, 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 very careful, and we are going to be very diligent in investigating so that when we come to arrest you, we know that we are doing so because, there's a reasonable basis for it. So to your question, when we'll start prosecutions, I can tell you we are working on the oral, reports, and if there's a basis, if our investigation shows that there is a basis, we will go ahead and then prosecute.